This episode of Ouzo Talk is brought to you by Kingsford Smith Transport. Have a group that needs transporting? KST has you covered with their fleet of professionally maintained buses and coaches, catering from 9 to 57 passengers and driven by experienced drivers. Visit kstbuses.com.au to talk to the team and make your booking. Kingsford Smith Transport, proud sponsors of the Ouzo Talk podcast. There's no Ouzo Talk without a bottle of Ouzo, which is why we love the Greek Providor. Get a real taste of the very best produce that Greece has to offer. From olive oils and delicious artisan sweets to unique spirits, earthy herbs and memorable wines. Visit thegreekprovidor.com.au to see their amazing range. The Greek Providor, proud sponsors of the Ouzo Talk podcast.
Sound is.
And we're back in the distillery. Nick Athanasiou, lovely to see you as always, my friend.
How good is it to be back, Tom? Did you miss it?
Yes. We've been in Melbourne for the first couple of episodes. I don't know that we actually mentioned that in the first couple of episodes, but we were in Melbourne. But we had 2 great episodes to kick off the season down there, and we're back now, as you say. And, mate, you must be feeling good to be back in this natural habitat of yours.
I am, yeah. Look, it's great to be back. And look, familiar surroundings as well. But look, got to tell you, the other day, I went over to see my mum. You're not going to believe this. Had half an hour to kill. Thought, I'll go see mum. Haven't seen her for a while. And as soon as I get there, next thing I know, she's got all these fucking chores for me.
How old are you again?
Bloody hell. One, you know how Greeks have got 2 fridges? You know, one
in
the laundry and one in the garage.
Yep.
Next thing I know, I'm carting this 6-foot fridge, which is about from the 1980s, full of rust, down steps, down the fucking driveway because it was rubbish collection day.
Yeah.
Do you ever get that? How's that? And I had my nice boat shoes on, nice shirt on, or whatever.
Ready to go out.
Yeah, ready to go out. She said, Nico, hella. I said, hella.
Yeah.
Do you ever get that when you go visit your grandparents?
100%. All the time. Well, it's usually the letters. As soon as you show up, it's not even, hello, how you going? It's, can you read these for me? Before you've even set foot in the joint. It's like, read these for me. What does it say? Delay. Και γιατί μου στέλνουν αυτό, you know.
Classic. That's the best.
It's not so much moving fridges on my end.
Classic.
It's more the letters.
That is funny. I do get that, but on this particular day, it didn't end there.
Yeah.
So Mum's got a massive garden. I'm sure I've told you before.
Yeah.
And she's got this pomegranate tree, and it hasn't stopped. It stopped fruiting a couple of years ago. And she's 83, right? You know, or I think she's 82, but you know, Greeks round it up as soon as you have your birthday, they round up your age, right? So she calls herself 83 now. So she went to this tree with an axe. She did a pretty good job. And there was only like, the roots were still in there. And she goes, look, can you just get rid of it for me and chuck it out as well, next to the fridge?
Can you just get rid of a whole tree for me in 10 minutes?
Yeah, exactly. And I haven't even sat down. Walked up the driveway. Hey, Ma, how you going? Hello, fridge, and then this.
Yeah.
Fuck. So now I'm pushing this thing. I'm axing it. Yeah, nah, fuck it. So I'll do the old-fashioned push and pull technique. Wait for the roots to snap.
Yeah.
So I'm pulling. I thought, fuck, I think I've got it. One big push. Snap, bang. I'm hugging this tree in the fucking garden.
With your boat shoes on.
Dirt everywhere. Ma felt bad. She goes, and she had this beautiful fresh spanakopita coming out of the oven, crispy, and the spinach from the garden that I was rolling around in.
Yeah.
But that was my greeting. So you get that as well, do you? But you get the letters.
100%. Well, it's usually the letters on our side. But I mean, you mentioned something very important there because Spanakopitas lead us very nicely into what we're talking about because, I mean, most people who have been following this podcast for the last couple of years know that we started doing an island series. So, you know, focusing on an island or a region of Greece, we're revisiting that now because we're going very close to your home where the best Spanakopitas are made, in my opinion, aren't we?
Definitely, mate. Love talking about this.
So, the time's come. We're going to Epirus, aren't we? This is this is what you've been waiting for. We talk about Kerkira a little bit every now and then, and I get very excited. We're dedicating an episode to this. And to do that, I mean, you know the region really well, but we've got a very good friend of the show's who knows the region exceptionally well. Among many other things, of course. He's an expert on genocide as well. He's an educator among educators, let's say. Panayiotis Diamadis, welcome back to Ouzo Talk.
Καλώς σας βρήκα. Ευχαριστώ για την πρόσκληση. Thank you for inviting me back.
Well, mate, it was great. I mean, how good was the last episode with him?
Oh,
it was
fantastic.
It was fun.
It was fun for me. I don't know. Obviously, I'm back, so the audience enjoyed it as well. But
Definitely, we had a lot of feedback as well. I think we did ask in the podcast,
Yeah,
should
we
we bring
did.
him back? And it was an overwhelming yes. So you are here, my friend. Welcome back.
Thank you to the fans, especially the ones I paid. Yes.
But look, it has to be said, you're not here as a guest, really. You are here as a guest host. So this is, we're all equals
we
here.
go.
It's not a guest scenario here. This is just a drink. This is a laid-back discussion, isn't it?
We are, mate, and that's the thing. You are a historian by trade, and that last episode when you actually never left home, you never left my home, did you? You stayed for dinner.
I
and
heard
think-
about this because I had to duck
You had to
off,
go.
and it was like 6 hours later that you were still here.
We're still here drinking Tipperol, having pizzas and telling stories. We should have had it recorded. But the quality and the content was fantastic. But I guess we got him here back now, so maybe we can relive some of those stories again.
Did you note down what you were talking about in that first one?
You know what? When you get into that drinking session, you sort of I forget. But hopefully you remember the Amundi.
Some of it.
Eh?
Some of it.
Doctor, I'm sure you would have.
I was good. I was well enough that I drove home, so I do remember some of it.
Yeah.
Classic.
Well, that again, you've just led us into the next segue because it is time for a drink, isn't it?
Of course.
Definitely. Let's have a drink.
Stiniamas.
Yamas,
Colo
boys.
programa.
That's what we should start saying. Calo programa.
Yeah, I like it.
Now, we've got something new, don't we?
Needed that.
What have we got, Nick?
do.
This is good stuff.
What
This
do you
is
think
very
that
good
is?
stuff.
That first sip was absolutely sensational.
Very smooth.
Well, we're going to where our homeland is, mate. We've gone back to Tipperol. It's called a classical spirit pea herbal Tipperol.
Classico, is it?
Yeah, what do you think of that, boys? Made from grapes. It's a northern Greek grape variety, but it's from Thessaloniki. It's just still
Okay.
there. So it's, I love it. What about the smell of
Yeah,
this
it's got a
thing?
nice aroma, doesn't it?
It's got a lot of herbs in it, doesn't it? So I think you were saying before, Nick, that there's like jasmine in it and stuff. That is absolutely sensational as a Tipperol, and it is pretty strong as well, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
Make your eyes water just smelling it.
Well, I mean, you guys obviously have had a lot of Tipperol in your life, being from Epirus. Number one, what's good about the Tipperol in Epirus, and how does it compare to this?
The Tipperol that I usually have from Epirus, it doesn't have the flavour of this one. It's usually just very, very plain. Just as powerful, just as strong. It
Usually pure ethanol, right?
Yeah, you could run, especially the first batch that comes out. You can definitely run the tractor or the car on it. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. So I guess we've evolved now, and this is, like you said, it's got a hint of jasmine and there's mint in it as well. So, look, it's kind of a new level,
And it comes to us again from our good friends at the Greek Providor, who, again, fantastic to have them on board this season, sponsoring this segment of the podcast. Thank you so much to Crystal and Greek Providor. Look them up online, greekprovidor.com.au. There's fantastic stuff, isn't there?
Yeah, they have. And look, if you want to taste Greece, go to I think it's their pantry as well. So they've got everything in the bar section. They got, I think, a 10% discount now as well. So get on there now. And
That's dangerous.
I think it was free shipping as well, anything over $150. So,
Really?
Nice.
Yeah, so good to get on there now. So Greek Providor, thank you guys. We love you guys. You guys are champs.
Just on them as well, they've been featured quite heavily in the latest edition of Gourmet Traveller.
I saw that. Yeah.
huge.
So they're importing this quality Greek oil, and it made, the Gourmet Traveller, which is a...
No small feat.
Yeah, which is a really premium type of magazine here in Sydney or in Australia.
Australia, yeah.
Suits Greek Providor down to a T. Thank you so much for being on board, guys. And as you would have heard in our intro, thank you to Meet the Greek for coming on board for this episode as well. Thank you so much, guys. Mujos family, fantastic Greek food, guys. If you haven't been and you're in Sydney, you need to go.
Yeah, definitely. Check it out. And look, the whole restaurant is built like you're in a cave.
Kind of is, isn't
So
it?
it gets that feel, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
mountainous cave, which sort of goes on with what we're going to be talking about.
In a good way, though, right? A nice cave.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Oh, and the portions, mate, forget
Our
it.
portions
Oh,
crazy.
the portions are very healthy.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
don't over order because the portions
Yes.
are massive, especially the meat. You'll end up taking meat home.
Yeah,
and
you
for
always
the next 3 days.
And it's quality. That's the most important thing, isn't it?
Thank you, Meet the Greek.
Good stuff.
Absolutely.
All right, so
Well, shall we kick it off? So I guess we've already heard your credentials, Panayiotis, so
You already
probably
know
don't
me.
need to hear it again. Or
No,
our
we
listeners,
don't.
more for our listeners.
Go back to the genocide episode. If you haven't heard that, that gives you the full lowdown on Panayiotis' biography. As we said earlier, very learned and very knowledgeable about all these things, mate. You're a busy man, aren't you?
Very busy, but it's fun.
Yeah, it is.
Otherwise, why bother?
Yeah.
Exactly. And you're passionate about it. That's the key
absolutely.
And the good thing is, so you are a historian, and I guess my first question is, there's been evidence of people in Epirus back at the Stone Age. I believe you know a little
absolutely.
bit more about this. Do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
One of the wonderful things about Epirus is that because it's so sparsely populated and relatively isolated for a couple of hundred years, there hasn't been very much development. So a lot of this old Stone Age and prehistoric sites are still there and still being able to be excavated. So they haven't completely overdeveloped it, like Attiki, for example, around the Thessaloniki. There's places like Gorica.
So just on that, so I guess we should touch on the geography as well. So it's surrounded by, you're saying, mountains.
It's got mountain ranges on three sides. So Epirus, for those of you who are not familiar, is the northwest corner of Greece. So literally across from the best Greek island, Kerkyra. God, I had to say that.
Checks in the mail.
Come on, we will do an episode.
I will
Check it out.
completely upset my Cytherian, Mytilenean, Crete, especially the Cretan friends will kill me. But I had to say that, just the environment.
Love it.
And it's only got sea on one side, so it's unlike most of Greece.
So the Pindos mountain range, they say it's the spine.
It's the
of
spine
Greece.
of Greece, yeah.
And it divides Epirus and
Macedonia and Thessalia.
yeah, perfect.
So the upper end, the northern part of Pindos separates us from the Kozani and Florina and Kastoria districts. So that part of Macedonia. And you come down a bit and you cross over and you go into Trikala, or Meteora is most famous.
Yes.
Or a bit further south, Kardica. And then you get down into central Greece.
Yeah, beautiful. We got
And that basically has shaped the whole region's history. That geographic isolation has shaped the culture, the people, the history, the development of the place ever since.
So it's called, is it the Pindos mountain range?
Pinthos, yeah, in Greek Pinthos.
Pindos. So is that part of the Alps?
Only in a really distant way. It goes up from Peloponneso, essentially, from Megasteria Lava, right up through Greece, through Albania, up through Serbia, separating Serbia and separating Bosnia and Croatia, then running up the side of the Adriatic Sea, wrapping around the top and joining the Alps, roughly with a corner where there's Slovenia, Austria, and Italy meet. So essentially, it is one big long mountain range.
Wow.
And that's because of okay, let's get really technical now, the tectonic plates. So there you got this is why it's formed. This is why Crete, the mountains of Crete run the other way.
Yeah.
They run east-west, whereas the Pindos goes north-south.
Right.
Because Crete is where the European plate and the African plate meet. And that's why when they push up against each other, that's how you get the mountains of Crete. That's what those mountains and those islands are.
Very interesting.
But now we're going too far.
Yeah.
No,
well,
it
let me
is.
ask, as the only person who's not from Epirus. I mean,
You're outnumbered.
yeah, but I mean the stereotype of the when other people in Greece think of Epirotes and whatnot is that whole thing with the fustaneles and up in the mountains and some pretty rough and heavy people that the hard drinking and fiercely independent and whatnot. You mentioned they're being cut off.
Yep.
What has that actually done in terms of the development of the culture there? Because it is pretty unique there, isn't it?
It is unique. It's very unique. And cut off, as in there was no easy access. Even when you run up and down the coast, from the coast, I mean, not far from Nixkodio is not far from the coast, but go inland and you smack right into mountains that make our blue mountains at the back here look like molehills.
Yeah.
All right. You can go from the coast, and with a couple of kilometres, you're at 2,000 metres altitude.
Yeah.
So you talk about hardy and hard people, and the only way you could survive was to be tough. There is no great plains where you can farm, so you're relying on scraping little plateaus here and there, little ridge, arahula, as we call them.
What's that? Sorry.
Arahula, just a little patch of farmland. You
Right. Okay.
You literally flatten a little space, dig out all the rocks, and that's your garden patch. That's your grain patch.
Gotcha.
Except for small patches around Arta, around Preveza, and around Yanina.
Yes.
The rest is basically just rock.
Yeah. Okay.
So Epirotes became very good builders, stonemasons, by necessity. That's the building material, to the point where even traditionally the roofs are made of stone, not tiles, and that's more for practical reasons rather than any environmental.
Yeah.
It's just there's plenty of it.
Yeah.
So they learned how to split the slate to make roof tiles,
Yeah.
which required really thick timbers underneath to carry the weight.
Yeah.
Now, properly built, these things last for centuries.
Well, they're still there.
A lot of them are still there. My place would still be there if the Nazis hadn't burnt it. Ouzo Dimitriou in 1943. My Horio is part of Yanina district.
Okay.
Not particularly the really high range, but still, it's highlands. So most of the villages, even the ones that are high up, tend to be in spots which face the sun. There's an old joke about a little boy watching the news and shouting the weather report to his dad. Hey, Dad, it's raining in Yanina. That's in September. And then the months roll by. Hey, Dad, it's raining in Yanina, and it's now March. Again, because of the mountain range, Epirus is it's probably the wettest corner of the country.
Yeah, right.
Simply because the weather's, as you know, just here in Australia as well, the weather comes in from the west. So the rain systems build up over the Ionian Sea, smack into the mountain range and just sit there.
Yep.
And dump most of their water on Epirus and then go over the mountain range. So
That's why it's very green.
That's one of the reasons it's so green.
Yeah.
I love the variety of green of the place. You got the back of Sydney and you got the different eucalypts and occasionally the kind of pine tree. You go outside Yanina, or you go between Yanina and Ilmenitsa, and there's a dozen different shades of green within eyesight, and then you mix in the grey of the rock or the red of if you're in the volcanic area, and it's just the colours are just amazing. And this is one of the reasons that it is so physically beautiful to the eye. But because it's been so isolated for so long, transport-wise, people don't really explore it as tourists. Don't really visit it, unless you're smart enough to have married an Epiroti or an Epirotisa. I'm not going to be praising you more on the.
Yeah. What's that
Αν δεν πενέψεις το σπίτι σου, θα πέσει να σε πλακώσει.
That's the one.
There you go. Boom.
Love it.
Right? For the
Can I translate that?
Yeah, for the Hellenically challenged.
Yeah.
If you don't praise your own house, it'll fall on your head.
Yep.
Yeah. True.
And it's true.
It's true. So I love the place. I lived there for a few years when I was a kid. So I developed personal memories with the place, particularly with Yanina.
It's absolutely stunning there. I've been so many times, and every time you go there, there's something different to discover.
Oh,
really.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And even all the rivers as well. We talked about the Heronda River, but I want to talk about the Kalamas River.
The Kalama, yep.
Which was called, in ancient times, Diamis.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any truth in this, that the Thames in London was named after the Diamis River?
It's
spelt similar, Thames, very similar.
It's one of those, who knows? Quite possibly, because we know that when Alexander the Great, don't worry about the Macedonian side of things, his better half was his Epiroti half. Because
he took after his mum.
Yeah.
He took after his mum,
Yeah.
who was, of course, a princess of Epirus. Her brother was the king at the time.
Mm-hmm.
When Alexander sent off to finish the conquest of the Persian Empire, which his father, in fact, had started. So this is one of the reasons maybe Philip was assassinated, not so much because he annoyed Olympias, although that definitely played a role, but also because he had started an invasion of the Persian Empire. He had crossed over and taken control of what we call Troy. So he'd crossed over at Gallipoli. Does that sound familiar, that place?
Not at all.
Not at all. Η καλή πόλη. Η όμορφη πόλη. That's why Gallipoli is written with double L. The double L is beautiful, whereas the single L is good, καλό.
Yeah, right.
That's the difference.
Okay.
Very symbolic for Australians, for our American or Northern American friends.
Yeah, it's as important as Iwo Jima or Guadalcanal is in American military history.
Definitely.
When Alexander went off east, he sent a fleet to map the west, led by a guy called Pythias.
Mm-hmm.
We know that he produces the first maps of the east coast of the island of Britain, so England.
Oh, really?
Right up into Scotland and across to Denmark, Germany, Belgium, Holland, those whole coastlines. He produces the first maps. This is the 4th century BC.
Wow, I didn't know this.
Would he have gone up what we call the Thames? Absolutely.
Wow, okay.
especially at its mouth. The Thames is huge. So naturally he would have thought, okay, I've got to explore this because is this an island or is this a river? So he would have gone some way up it at least, and maybe even named it, we don't know. But we do know that the Celts and the Greeks did have trade links long before Alexander's time and long afterwards. So could some Epiroti have gone either trading or even married there up there?
Conceivably.
Absolutely, quite conceivable. Because unlike what the modern time of Epirot, in antiquity, because we didn't have the Suez Canal, we didn't have the Corinth Canal, some of the ports of Epirot were major trading centres.
The connections go even further, I guess, and I'm not sure what the chronology is like, but even Scotland itself, Scotia, it's named. It's a Greek name as well.
Okay, so is that
Greek settlement?
Is that
though?
a fact?
I don't know.
It's more than a coincidence that, Scotia became Scotland, whereas in Scottish, in Gaelic, it's a Laber. You don't call it Scotland.
So the Greek name won out in the end.
In the end.
So Scotia in Greek means dark.
The dark place, the dark land.
Dark lands.
Yep.
Which if you go there basically for 3/4 of the year, it does look pretty dark.
Overcast.
It's always constantly overcast. It's just you're on the edge of the North Sea. This is normal.
Bit like Epirot, maybe?
No, we get a bit more
mountainous?
sun than that.
Epirot is far better.
We get a bit
Far
more
better
sun than
climate.
that.
Yeah.
And not quite that wet.
Okay, so look, back to the Stone Age. So you're saying there is evidence now that people lived in these caves in Epirot, what, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 BC? How far back does this go?
No, we're talking Stone Age. So we're talking about 500,000 BC.
Way further back.
Okay, Stone Age ended, I think, 4,000 BC, didn't it?
Yes. Beginning of
40.
around the beginning of recorded history. But we've got fossils of animals that had been butchered, and by butchered we literally mean you can see cut marks on the bones. So somebody had chipped off a blade or made a blade out of stone and cut the meat from the tendons on the bones, and the bones are left over in these caves.
That's what Stone Age is. So
the dominant tool is the stone.
in a sharp or a flat object where you can cut. So there's evidence of that in Epirot. What, 100,000 years?
No, up to 500,000.
500,000. Wow.
Up to 500,000 years old. So particularly the main sources are Kokino Petrica, Gorica, Kastrica. Kastrica is that little Ayers Rock lookalike thing at the south end of the lake in Yanina.
Yes. Okay.
There are some caves in there with evidence of habitation with animal bones, like the Aboriginal middens here in Australia. Basically, the rubbish dumps, the shells that they would leave over, the bones that would be left over, and particularly the caves at Berrima, next to the Yanina airport. Another little mound, because you've got to think that back in the day, back before the last ice age, what we call Kastrica and Berrima were islands. The lake was much bigger and much deeper than it is now. They were islands. So the lake extended right down to almost the set of Yana, for those of you who know the Yanina district. And right up Eleusa, all that plain of Yanina was all water, was all marshland.
I mean, it just reminds me, this is the thing that comes up every time someone over there goes to build anything anywhere in Greece, and they've got to excavate. The local council always has an archaeologist associated with it. Wherever you dig, you're going to find something. You go to Athens airport, for example, and it's a mini museum upstairs of everything that they've found, with a diorama of this is where we found it, this is where it is in connection to where you're standing. Just imagine how much, when you're standing there, what you're potentially standing on and that we just don't know about.
Absolutely. Yeah. My little Horio, which has maybe 500 permanent residents, Gala, in summer it goes to 5,000. Yeah. Because half of Athens comes up. Yeah. It's actually got two museums. It's got the Laographiko, so the folkloric museum, which includes some of this antiquity stuff. And it's got a modern art museum. Yeah. You wouldn't expect a little Horio outside Yanina to have an modern art museum.
With abstracts in it.
Made by a guy who was from the Horio.
Really?
Yeah. He left the Horio. He became a professor of fine art in the University of Athens. The university in Athens. And when he retired, he goes, I'm not going to let the schoolhouse die. Beautiful old stone building, classic like in Yanina. Museo Papayani. There's a plug for it.
Make sure you go next time.
So the upstairs is all his work, his art. Wow. And he loves using, and very environmental, very ahead of his time. He only works with recycled materials. So he takes the offcuts from, they'll do some stone work. He'll take the offcuts and turn it into modern art.
Wow. Okay.
So he took some rusty, my favourite, some rusty old metals, shaped it into a giant snake, and stuffed it with aluminium cans. He was doing this 50 years ago when I first met him when I was like 5.
Hang on. Okay, so this is 50 years ago.
And he's still working now.
This is in a Chorió, right?
Yep.
What were people in the Chorió thinking seeing all this stuff? Because there must have been people like, "Κάνει αυτός ο άνθρωπος."
Ακριβώς.
Είναι καλά.
There were.
Really?
Oh, είναι καλά. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now that the tavernas are doing mad business, because especially in the warmer months and the school groups come up, uni groups come up, they're saying it's the best thing since sliced bread. Man, this guy's a genius.
The tune has changed. What do we even have to can?
Yeah.
I told him to do it.
Of course.
I praised him all this time.
Of course.
Δεν με άκουσε. And yet there's his museum.
Classic. Wow.
And it's the
Unbelievable.
top floor of the old Δημοτικό σχολείο. Thankfully, downstairs is still το σχολείο ακόμα υπάρχει.
There you go.
With, I think, six students still. Something like that. These villages are dying, just like in Australia.
Well,
I don't know about America, but I know in Europe and especially here in Australia, rural centres are dying. Everybody's moving into the cities.
I don't know where exactly it was. It must have been on one of the islands, I think. But last year, around 25 Martiu, there was footage of a parelasi in one of the villages where there was like one kid holding the flag, and that was it. That was the whole parelasi.
And the teacher. Don't forget the teacher.
And the
next
teacher,
time.
sorry,
Come on,
yes.
don't forget the teacher. Got to
you're
give
quite
the
right.
teachers credit.
Go the teachers.
But yeah, one student in the whole,
Yeah.
in the whole town.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I bet you it was one of those islands out near Kalimno. What's it called again? Folegandros. One of those really
You might be right, actually.
out of the
yeah.
way. 'Cause I remember seeing it on TV as
Yeah.
well. They keep it open because we do need to keep people on these places up in the mountain. We do need to keep these communities alive. We can't all live in Athens. We can't all live in Sydney.
We're going off topic, but
We
I was
are
going to
completely.
mention, let's take it one more off topic.
That's why we love this bloke.
I know, it is. We're going to be here forever.
Yeah.
But,
No, we're not. It's a
podcast's going to be for 6
we're
hours.
not. No, nobody will listen to us for more than an hour and a half. What are you talking about?
That's what Nick Giannopoulos said, but we've got the evidence to
I love
support
that
it.
episode, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Mate, it's huge.
It's all Nick.
Thanks, Nick.
course it's
This
Nick.
Nick.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I'm
But
thinking the other Nick.
it's the Nick show.
Remember Peter Manayiotis, the Lady of Roe
Kiratis
Island?
Row, yep.
Yeah, so that was the same sort of thing. She was
Yep.
on her own, elderly lady,
Widow, yep.
widow, and every morning she'd get up, raise a Greek flag. Didn't want to get off the island because I think Turks were
You know where
trying
it
to
is.
claim it.
You know Megisti?
It's near
Castellorizo?
Castellorizo,
It's
yeah.
just to the left. She got old, she passed away.
Well, the story broke out, and the military went there. Now the military are based there, and they've built a monument in her name, and they
And
they
there's
put the
actually-
flag up every day.
And there's actually a guy that has taken her place.
Oh, really?
So it used to be Kiratis Row, now we have Okirios Tis Row.
Oh, really?
So someone is a permanent resident, because the military comes and goes. There is a permanent resident who does exactly what she did.
Yeah.
Raises the flag every morning, brings it down every evening.
There you go.
Have they put him there, or did he just
No,
say,
he
I'm
wanted to.
going?
No, he wanted to.
Wow.
He heard about the Kiratis Row story. He was, I'm pretty sure he's a widower, and decided, I can go to a monastery, I can go here. This is more important geostrategically.
Yep.
That's a whole different episode. And we've got to organise someone way better than me on that point. This is why Megisti is so important. And I'll make one comment about it, and then we'll go back to Epirus, because it actually does tie in.
Okay.
It gives us a maritime border with Cyprus. It's actually not even Megisti. It's the island to the right of Megisti called Strongili. Or Strongili, depends on your pronunciation. The round one, Megisti, the big one, and Ro. Sounds like Larry, Curly and Mo.
The Greek version.
Yeah.
The Greek version. And because of Strongili, we have a 25 nautical mile border with Cyprus. And the forecast, the pipelines that they've done deals about to build, electricity cables, pipelines from Egypt and Israel through Cyprus to Greece and then to mainland Europe,
Yes.
go through exactly that spot. So once it leaves Israeli or Egyptian waters, it's in EU waters all the way.
There you go.
Geopolitics.
Now let's go back to Epirus, because the same
So little
principle.
does he know that Gideon of Roe is
This is why this is what he was
So
he was
important
thinking. How are we going to
for
make
Europe.
sure that this little? It's literally a rock.
yeah.
All right, it's a couple of the whole island's a few acres in size.
Yeah,
It's literally a rock in the sea.
But we know how important rocks in the sea in Greece are.
Yeah, and when it comes to Epirus, I'm not sure if you've been up there, but Othoni,
Yes.
the ones above Kerikira,
Yes. I was just there last year.
they play exactly the same role as
With Italy.
Castellorizo, but with Italy and Albania.
Yep.
We were there.
Actually, yeah, we were
Yeah,
both there together.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's right.
Othoni, those little rocks above Kerikira.
Yeah. Apparently
That's-
Odysseus went there.
Yep, it was one of his stops.
Calypso Beach.
There you go. So speaking of Odysseus, actually we touched on Alexander the Great's mother. So Alexander the Great, he claims that he's a descendant of Achilles. Mm-hmm. And there's a guy called Neoptolemy, which was Neoptolemus, which was Achilles' son. And he was there in the Battle of Troy, supposedly. Yep. And he was in the belly of the horse that went in, and he killed Priam.
As vengeance for Priam's son killing his father. Yep.
Correct. So, is he a descendant of Epirus?
He became...
Or he ended up in Epirus?
Legendarily, the first king of Epirus. Because originally, as you know, the Myrmidons, so Achilles' people, were Thessalia. They're from Thessalia.
Okay.
And he then came across and basically bashed the heads together of the local clans. Those of you in, particularly in the UK, you've got to think of Epirus like the Highlands of Scotland. Very clannish, very my little patch of rock is my little patch of rock.
It's a good comparison, actually.
So there was 14, my understanding.
Yeah,
14
exactly.
tribes. The Molossians were the...
In a space the size of nothing.
Yeah.
So what names are we talking about here? What was the one that you
So
just...
Molossians were the
dominant
main
ones
guys?
were the Molossi, the
Okay.
Molossians, yeah.
And Thesprotia.
And Thesprotia.
Okay.
Yeah, which is now a region within a region.
It's a district. It's the western part of Epirus. Thesprotia, that's Nick's family's region.
Protithesi.
Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, when it comes to those sorts of claims, you know, lineage to Achilles, I mean, we see that in Egyptian culture as well, you know, descended from a king, you know.
You see it in popular culture. You see it on Game of Thrones.
You see it in Christianity as well, you know, with the...
the lineage, yes.
Yeah, like
Jesus is from the house of David.
Exactly.
It was an ancient and continues to be the way you show your status.
Yes,
by
correct.
being the descendant of this famous whoever it is.
Yep.
I've got a friend whose surname is Kapodistrias. He's related to the first governor of Greece, Ioannis Kapodistrias. There's someone I know in Melbourne whose surname is Kolokotronis. He is from the family of Kolokotronis.
Wow.
Really?
He's a descendant of he's part of that clan.
Wow.
There you go. Far out. Okay, so good. So we can tick that off. So Neoptolemy. So we did debate if Troy actually happened, the Iliad, because it was...
I'm in the camp, yes, it did.
Because Homer wrote it, 400 years after supposedly it happened?
Well, Homer couldn't write. He was blind. So he composed the poem about 400 years, we think, ballpark. It wasn't written down for about 800 years. So it was Chinese whispers for about 800 years. So
okay, so instead of going for a year, we ended up 10 years. Yeah, that sounds like Chinese whispers.
Yeah. It's what Professor Paul Cartledge said on the episode where he said it probably only lasted 10 days in reality, but then they sort of stretched it out. And
maybe a bit longer.
Years. Yeah, the storytellers, mate, I know the story. I'll tell you what happened.
It's like when Nick scores a try in OzTag. It was like 1 metre out, and he's saying it with length of the field.
Yeah, the field's only 100 metres. I ran 200 metres to score.
Yeah.
Or the old jokes about the hunters. Either mia arcuda, arcuda. And it was a little bear cub. Yeah.
You know, it was a possum.
Or a possum.
Caught a fish this big.
Yeah. It becomes like Jaws, but it was actually a guppy, you know.
Classic. And then from that we got the Iliad.
Yeah.
And this, more importantly for us, the Odyssey.
Definitely.
Because Odysseus, to find his way home, goes down to the underworld. And one of the entrances...
Beautiful place.
Nicely done. Nice segue.
I love that. Yep. I'm getting goosebumps. This is where I was going to take you.
So this is the Acheronda River?
The Acheronda.
That's it.
The Necromandio.
See, I listen.
You do.
About time.
I was there a couple of months ago. Beautiful. Amazing place.
Problem with being a Yanyotti, I don't get down to that part of Preveza very much. But one of the mythical entrances to the underworld is the Acheronda River.
Correct.
Which most of it is actually underground. And only the last bit of it comes out in Preveza.
And you can actually go there. So they built
actually,
restaurants there now, so you can eat. But the water is freezing. It's mountain water. It's freezing.
Oh, don't try and go swimming in any Epirus lakes or rivers. Unless you like frostbite.
Come on, mate. I went in. We all went in. Me and my boys went in.
Yeah, how long did you last in the water? A minute?
Mate,
Maybe
we went on a day. It was like 40 degrees.
Yeah,
I don't know if you remember in July.
But see, we're part of like the cold shower crowd.
Yeah. Okay,
cold shower,
you're one of
ice
those
bars. Yeah, where Nick and I have been doing that for the last few years.
Yeah, we used to jump in Botany Bay in winter.
That's not cold.
I know, it warm.
Well, it was there.
It was for us.
Definitely.
But yeah,
look,
so that
for those who don't know Epirus rivers, You put a watermelon, a full-grown watermelon in there. In less than 10 minutes, it's ice. It's perfectly chilled. And this is because the rivers are very shallow and very fast-flowing, so they don't get time to trap the sun's heat. So they're crystal clear. You can almost drink the water.
Can you drink it? Yeah.
You can. If you go
close to the springs, yeah, absolutely.
Correct. Yeah, we were feeling. There's a place where, because a lot of tourists go there now, and there's a bit where you can walk where it's like knee deep, sometimes waist deep. But when you see water come literally out of the rocks, that's the bit that you can drink.
You obviously tried it.
Yeah, definitely.
You must have.
Yeah.
I never got to the
minerally.
end, though.
It does.
Yeah.
I just felt the inside of my mouth couldn't absorb this. I just really wanted to absorb this water. I don't know what it was. I feel like I was just, maybe it was hot, I was dehydrated, and had a sweet taste to it as well, I think.
Depends on the soils. Coming back to my Choreo, I haven't mentioned it. My Choreo is called Eliniko.
Okay.
Okay, it's just outside Venena. It's got 3 different natural springs. The water of each one tastes different.
By the way, the crunching you can hear is Nick.
I won't hide it. Sorry.
Don't hide it.
it.
It doesn't matter. This is
I'm
relaxed.
deliberately not eating the nuts for that reason.
Just get into it, mate.
Well,
It
it is
doesn't matter.
bad,
You're
yeah.
among friends.
All right. It sounds good on a podcast.
Yeah, we should top up at this point. Sorry,
We should, definitely.
We're 40 minutes in.
Yeah.
Come on. Give us a top up then. Sorry,
More Cipro.
Panayiotis. Keep going there, mate. Fascinating stuff.
So Odysseus sails down to meet Tiresias, which for me personally has special reference because my late aunt was Tiresias, the female version. Yeah.
Cheers, mate.
And meets the spirits various, including his father. He bumps into Achilles, Hector, and gets guidance as to you've annoyed the gods, so you're going to suffer a bit, and eventually you'll get home to Ithaki.
And also, going to the underworld, what did you have to do? You had to pay the ferryman.
And that's why our people used to leave a single coin under the tongue,
Under the
or
tongue,
on the eyes.
Yeah. And one of my great aunties still got buried like that. They still try and keep that tradition to this day. And there was this famous song about it as well. I'm not sure who sang it.
Yeah, we mentioned this on the podcast, I think, with
we did. Okay.
with George Ellis, I think it was. Who was it? I can't remember.
Yeah, don't forget to pay the ferryman.
Was it a Rolling Stones song or something?
I wanted to say David Bowie, but I don't think it is.
No, we can Google it.
Let's check that.
We can Google it.
Fact check that.
Who pays the ferryman? Is that what it was called?
Look, whether
Maybe
it's
just a line in the song.
whether it's a funeral or whether it's a wedding, Epirotica Panegyria, any celebration in Epiro starts with a dirge, with a meroloi.
Oh, yeah.
We were listening to this just before we started to get us in the mood.
This is my most favourite music to listen to.
Really?
My students constantly ask me, so what's your favourite music, sir? And it's like, yeah, okay. Τι να τους πω τώρα, μυρολόγια, Klarina, Petroluca, Chalkia. I mean, these guys aren't going to go, is he speaking Greek again?
Yeah.
And I've done that in class, by the way.
Yeah. But that song, Metalloy,
The
really famous.
Meroloi, yeah.
And again, I guess probably got to put a bit of context to it. So if there's ever a festival or a get-together of people, this is the song they play.
It's a collection of songs. It's more of a style rather than a particular song. It's a style of very heavy clarinet basically by itself, perhaps with a defi, so the hand drum, or a violin. But typically the clarinet by itself.
And the purpose of the song is for you to think about the people that aren't here at the festival. They've either passed on or they've left. They've gone to another land, for example. As you know, it's very mountainous. You know, it might take...
It's poor. It's a poor region.
Yeah, 6 days climbing up and down a mountain to get to the nearest town, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, we heard that too. And Dekapedavgustu went to my parents' village, and it was beautiful. You know, it brought back those good memories as well. But that piece is, from what I read, it's probably over 1,000, maybe 2,000 years old.
It wouldn't surprise me. I'm not a musicologist, but it wouldn't surprise me.
The interesting thing to me is the name, obviously, because, you know, I remember as a kid, you know...
The name Epirus or the name Miroloi?
Miroloi, because...
we'll get to that.
Because, I mean, I remember, you know, like my mum, you know, my yao or someone, you know, you're sitting around kicking stones, you're upset, whatever. Yeti Miroloi, yes, you know, like... Can you just explain what that actually means?
It comes from Mira, fate.
Right.
Why are you cursing or upset with your fate? It's your fate. This is your lot in life. Suck it up. Or as we would say in Australia, man up and deal with it. So these are songs that are mourning the dead, but also mourning the ones who have migrated.
Departure.
Because I always equated it with wailing. You know, like
It is.
It's like a grieving type of
It
thing,
is.
isn't it?
Which is why typically the ones that have lyrics are almost always to do with funerals, with death. But there are a couple, Γιάννη μου το μαντίλι σου, which everybody's heard. Το λέρωσε η ξενιτιά.
Explain that.
It's the foreign land. It's the experience of living away
The
from
foreign
home.
land tarnished it or stained it.
That has stained my mandili, my kerchief, which you would wave to say I'm back or to say goodbye.
Yeah, because they played at weddings, and in particular the bride's family played because they're
she's
saying
leaving
goodbye
the
to the
house.
bride.
Yeah.
Correct.
Who knows where she'll end up?
Yeah,
She may end up in the next house.
yeah.
She may end up in the next Horillon.
Another village.
She may end up on another side of the planet.
or another country.
You think
Like
you
our
think you
parents.
think about. I mean, we're coming up in a few weeks. We've got the celebration of the liberation of Iona in 1913. Next month is Independence Day. Independence Day associated with the Eteria των Φιλικών, the Society of Friends. Two of the three founders were Epirotes. And where did they make their money? Where did they get big? Russia, away from home.
Yep.
Averov. I mean, both of you must have been, or a lot of our listeners would have been to the Averov in Piraeus Harbour, the battleship, the Greece's first battleship,
Yes.
paid for by an Epiroti who left Metsovo, his family from Metsovo, to Egypt, made his money in cotton. So it's always these people who left.
Yeah.
So it's their diaspora that are
The
keeping the
Epirotes,
motherland.
the diaspora, the US has a huge number of Epirotes.
Amazing. A lot of great Epiroti there. Can we ask you
Yes, ma'am.
I think we have to strap Tom in here. So the word Epiro.
Oh, here we go. You had to bring it up, didn't
I
you?
had to bring it up.
You had to bring it up.
Tell us, mate. How did
Go on.
Epiro get its name?
I wish the camera was on Tom's face right now.
Oh, here we fucking go. Am I going to get upset or am I going to
Oh, the exact opposite.
We'll have a look. Come on, mate.
Originally,
Tell us.
Epirus is Apiros. Apiros, yeah. And even the Federation of Epirotes in Athens, they're subheading, because you know Epirotes, all our sylogi, they love having a suffix, a special name. So it's, you know, Osilogos, what is it? Pilea to Navarino.
Yep.
For the Epirotes, it's Apiros, yeah, or infinite land.
Right.
The name Epirus was given to it by the islanders across the water from Epirus.
Okay. Sorry.
So because when you think about it, you're standing on an island or you're sailing past and you see this vast, massive mountains, and you go, you know, Apiro. It looks infinite.
So you named us, mate.
So it became Epiros.
But to that point, I mean, you're quite right, because, you know, when they do look over the ocean, they do say that's Epiro. There's this sense that it's the whole country.
This is why in modern Greek the word Epiros also means continent.
Continent, correct.
It's the same word.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Translate when it's with a capital Ita, it's the place, the region Epiros. When it's a lowercase Ita, it's continent.
There you go.
Amazing, huh?
Because from their point of view, as we said, from the point of view of people sailing past or living on the islands, it did look like
A continent.
a continent. It looks like, you know, a whole different world. Because
Wow.
Kerkyra's pretty rocky, but still, it's got some forests, it's got the water, it's got limits. This massive rock across.
It's got Palio Kastritsa. Yeah. Classic.
Nice part of the world.
Wow. Okay, so we touched on Neoptolemy. There was so Olympia's father was a Neoptolemy, wasn't he?
Yep, and her brother was Alexandros,
Who was the
king of
Epirus.
Epirus.
So do you want to tell us a little bit about him? Do you know much about Neoptolemy at all? We discussed the 14 tribes. So Molossians were the main tribe.
They came to dominate the others basically because, just like in all, so why was Mycenae Agamemnon's place? Why was Sparta the center of that region? Because it was the center of the wheat and the grain growing area.
Ah.
So the Molossians controlled the valley of what we call Ioannina, the main grain growing area.
Yeah.
So they became the richest, therefore the most powerful.
Okay, it's all based on
So
food.
they came to dominate.
Okay.
We can't live without food and water. It's just that simple. So those who control the food and the water are the rich.
Because you keep on saying geography is so important in history. It's just
Can't
another-
study history unless you study geography. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
My geography teaching friends love me saying that.
Well, you're right, though.
It's true.
All right, so he had 3 important kids, didn't he, in Neoptolemy? So Alexander was one, Olympia was the other, and the third one was...
Okay, so Pyrrhus comes along.
So Olympia-
Pyrrhus is Alexander the Great's great nephew.
So
Okay.
Olympia's sibling's child. Grandchild, correct.
Epirus became, in his turn, the king of Epirus. By this time, the Romans are a rising power. They've conquered Italy. They've knocked out the Carthaginians, and they're now moving into the eastern Mediterranean, into Greece. So he fights them. Actually, no, they haven't knocked out the Carthaginians yet. They've won the first Punic War, not the second one yet. And he introduces a new battle weapon against the Romans called an elephant.
Okay.
Which would have come from Alexander the Great's...
Oh, no, there were elephants in Greece.
Oh, really? No.
Yeah.
You're kidding.
Look it up.
Is that a fact?
Go Google it. Where are, if not the world's record for mammoth tusks, definitely some of the biggest have been found in the Pindos Mountains. They're actually on the other side in Grevena. They're something like 16, 17 feet long. That's the tusks.
Okay.
All right.
I thought Alexander the Great brought them over from India.
No. These were fossilized. They're on display now in Grevena. It's one of the towns on the other side of the mountains from Yonina.
Yeah, you're right. Yep.
He's never wrong, mate.
I know
I am wrong.
No, you're not, mate.
My wife tells me I'm wrong all the time.
That's different.
You're always wrong there.
Just suck that up, mate.
Yeah, just like
No.
Miroloi, mate.
No. I've got the best comeback to that, and my wife hates it when I say it. She goes, "Whatever happened, your fault."
Yeah.
This Leo. She goes, "What are you talking about?" I go, "Mate, I asked you to marry me. You said yes. You had the last word. It's all your fault." She hates it when I say that.
Love it.
Sorry, Olympia had a sister called Troas.
There you go. Troas.
And Troas's grandson is Pyrrhus.
So
that's a connection to Alexander the Great.
And he thought he could fight and keep the Romans out of Greece. He failed. They had way more resources, basically. He did win the battle, and he goes, if I win one more battle like that, I'm done.
Yeah.
So how do we say this in English? A Pyrrhic victory.
Okay.
It's named after him.
Yes.
So it was the two battles. He won one, and then he won another, and after the second one, he goes, "Mate, if I have another battle like this,
I'm done.
I'm done. We're done."
We're done. This belongs on an episode of Horrible History, Stupid Deaths.
Is this the tile?
The
on the head? Yeah.
He's going through Argos, the city of Argos in
Yep.
Peloponneso, and one version of the story is it was deliberate, so it was an accident. Anyway, someone pushes a tile off a roof and smacks him in the head.
So this is the Ben-Hur scenario, basically. Is that where they got it from?
Probably, actually.
I think
But
it was
this
the
time
other version.
This one would actually hit him, actually
Right.
did kill him, because these tiles
Shit.
are not our little flimsy ones. These were solid
The stone
clay.
one.
Yeah, these were probably one of the stone ones.
Yeah.
Well, they say there was a duel. So a guy challenged him, and he beat him, and his mum threw the tile.
Yeah.
The guy that he killed
Wow.
in the duel, his mum threw the tile
So
on his head.
whether
That's
it's
why he didn't
deliberate
have
or
a
not,
helmet on, because he was fighting and he lost his helmet. I don't know.
There are different versions. Chinese whispers.
But he was 39.
The fact is, he was a successful general, but
Yeah,
To a tile.
And he's 39. He wasn't old.
he wasn't old. Oh, look,
Yeah.
for that.
What was
for,
the
for,
what was
for
the
that
average
time,
age then? 40, 50?
It depends. For royalty, 39 was not particularly old. For a labourer, you're getting into old age.
Ready for retirement.
Well, that didn't exist. If you retired,
Yeah,
you
you're
didn't
done.
eat. Which is why they had the council of elders. Their advisors are always with the white beard, so they'd be in their 50s, getting into their 60s.
The wise ones.
The wise ones, because you're wise enough to have lived this long. No, it was literally like that.
No, it makes sense. Absolutely.
When you think about the 1/3 of people didn't get to puberty,
Sure, that's
they would
pretty
die
right.
of childhood diseases,
Yep.
cold or hunger. If you've made it to your 50s,
Mate, you're doing well.
you're
You've
doing
done
well,
really
you're blessed by the gods, and therefore you're a wise person. We're going to be here till next weekend.
No, that's okay. Well, look, as long as...
Well, on the whole thing of, we keep sort of mentioning conflicts in the region.
Yeah.
Again, let's go back to a bit of the stereotype around the region that the rest of the Greeks sort of think. Epirus is known for its freedom fighters. It's people that are tough and hardy, taking rifles up into the mountains, up against the Turks and whatnot. Is that sort of justified in the sense that this is an essential part of the Epirus tradition that, number one, we're fighters? How do you guys see it, coming from there?
I'll do the analogy with the Highlanders of Scotland, or the Cossacks of Russia, Ukraine, or the Ozarks, or some of these mountain regions, the West Virginia of the US. If you're not tough and if you're not independent and quick thinking, you die.
I mean, you look at photos of his family that he's shown me from family members that were in the army around World War II and whatnot. Man, these are serious individuals. These are not people you want to meet in a dark alley.
And you're talking about the guys, not the women.
He's talking about the women.
The women are even tougher.
Big hands.
Well, think about it. With the men, typically with the herds,
Yeah.
if your family's lucky enough to have the herds, half the year, especially in the summer, the warmer months, they're up in the highland pastures feeding. They're not in the hoyo. They're not in the village.
Yeah.
So who's farming the fields?
Yeah.
Who's raising the kids? Who's maintaining the house? Keeping the roof leaks off?
Actually,
It's the women.
yeah.
So they become very skilled and very tough.
Yeah. Also, I didn't realise, I only found out recently, there was a Molossan dog.
The war dogs.
An Epirotical dog.
Yeah, yeah.
Which
Special
apparently
breed
it's
of dog?
extinct now. Yeah, it's a proper
Wow.
breed.
It's basically extinct. Through interbreeding, basically it's extinct. But there's a famous sculpture of one in the Archaeological Museum in Athens. Think about the wolfhounds, the Irish wolfhounds.
Yes.
Double it
In size, you
in
mean?
size.
Really?
Not so much in height, about the same height, but double it in bulk.
Just
Wow.
thick.
These were big ass mastiffs. All right, these
Okay.
were big dogs, and they were trained for war.
Wow, okay.
And they used to protect the home as well, children, all that sort of stuff.
The mountains in those days had lions.
Actually, I was going to say that before. I mean, you mentioned elephants and
Yeah,
mammoths
there
and
were
stuff.
lions. The not Epirus because it was too cold, but you go down to the Cyclades, the Aegean Islands. They found fossils of pygmy hippos, pygmy rhinos, prehistoric stuff.
We're not talking about mountain lions like our friends
No,
in America.
we're talking about European, Mediterranean lions. They only became extinct in the Middle Ages when they were basically hunted to extinction.
Yeah, right.
But these are big lions. You look at the famous lion hunting mosaic of in Pella of
Yes.
of Alexander with Cassander, and you look at the proportion, get an idea. These are full-grown lions. These are not
Yep.
little things. Wolves, bears, these roaming the forests of Epiro.
Yeah.
So
There
you
you go.
needed a guard dog.
Yeah.
So the dogs become very big and are bred to become very aggressive and very big.
Definitely.
And they were used in war.
Well, there was definitely a famous statue. I think it was a Roman statue of
It's a Roman
Epirotical.
copy of a Greek original, yeah.
Ah, is that what it's in the British Museum
Yeah.
as well. So if you ever
Shock.
around, wonder how they got
The
that.
greatest warehouse of stolen antiquities. Let's move on.
Classic.
We have touched on that before, obviously.
We have.
We have.
But look, you're talking about...
You got to love. One of my favorite exhibit at the Ioannina Archaeological Museum are the Katares. Now these are scrolls of lead, white lead. Lead in nature always exists with silver. You extract the silver because you want the coinage, and the leftover is the lead. So they would make sheets of it, inscribe Katara for whatever reason. The most famous one is "May he never be happy until he comes back to me."
So what's katara mean? What's that?
Curse?
Curse.
Oh, curse. Okay.
Curse tablets. If you
Okay.
Google curse tablets, there's a whole collection of them in Ioannina,
Okay.
in the Ioannina Museum. because where do you put it? You don't see. Typically with gods, you burn things. We now burn incense.
Yes.
The old would burn a sacrificial animal or part of it to the gods, so the smoke rises.
The
What do you
entrails
do?
or
What do
something.
you do with these curse tablets? You bury them because you want something dark to happen to your former lover, someone who stabbed you in the back, whatever it is. So you pray to the gods of the underworld, the dark gods. So you bury these curse tablets, which is why we've got them.
Tell me more about this. I want to know how we do it.
Yeah. So if you want to... Yeah. I'm just thinking a metal collector will be going now. Beep, 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 finding all this.
I'm not sure lead gets picked up by metal detectors,
Oh, it
actually,
doesn't,
but
okay.
I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not a
Yeah.
metallurgist. This is one of the best examples of the Pella curse tablet, found at Pella in Macedonia. One of the best examples of what the average Macedonian spoke, not the royal court, Alexander and Philip, the average farmer. It's written in a really Highland Pic dialect of Greek, of Doric, similar to what they were spoken in Epiro.
So we spoke a Doric dialect.
Doric dialect, related to what the Spartans spoke, which the Athenians would love making fun of. You sound like a hillbilly.
Yeah.
No, literally. And it's like, yeah, and
There you go.
I am a hillbilly.
Classic.
Very, very rough. And you
Yeah.
think about it, even you think about it today,
Yeah.
the joke is that Epiro was so poor that they would eat the vowels when they speak because
Classic. That is
think
so
about
funny.
the way
That's
Epirotes
awesome.
think about the way
Yeah.
Epirotes speak.
Yeah.
Bum spit.
Yeah,
Bumspit.
shorten all the words. That was all to talk quietly. So
Not
no one
bum
could hear you.
spit, bum
Yeah.
spit.
Bums for
All right.
spit. Yeah.
No, not even store spit. That's too much.
Yeah.
They're very laconic. They're very short, and
That's very true.
the dialect is very simple, very direct.
Do you guys say zadzik instead of zadziki?
I don't speak the dialect very well at all.
Yeah. So I heard.
I've always
'cause-
loved that.
So in the mountains, I heard they had to be quiet because it was,
It
with
echoes.
the Ottomans and all that
It
sort of
echoes.
stuff. And is that why they had 2-syllable surnames as well?
Probably that's how it probably developed. Because really, until the Middle Ages, Greeks didn't have surnames. Only the wealthy would bother with.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, think about it. Your surname, the son of
Arthur. Yeah, correct. Athanasiou.
Athanasiou.
Yeah.
All right. The Southerners would say Opoulos. Same thing.
Yeah.
The Eastern Greeks.
But we're very unique. So my great-great-grandfather was Pappus. He was the priest in this town. And then he had a couple of kids, Lukas, Athanasiou, and then they became the surnames. Lucas clan, Athanasiou clan, and so forth.
yeah.
But-
Or nicknames like mine.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Our family name, Diamadis,
The diamond.
the diamond,
Rough,
was,
rough diamond.
was a nickname. No,
Yeah.
someone actually says diamond in the rough.
Okay. There you go. Good stuff. So, look, speaking of, warlike people, let's talk about the Souliotes now. So,
Oh, yeah.
the Souliotes came around when Greece was occupied by the Ottomans.
What we know of is that the people moved up into the area, the region we call Souli, the district we call Souli,
Great place.
sometime about after the Ottoman conquest. So the Ottomans took over Epirus in the 1350s,
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
about 100 years before Constantinople fell. And there's another story about that, how Ioannina actually was taken, because it was a major metropole, it was a major centre.
Mm.
When the Romans took over Greece, I'm going right back now. When the Romans took over Greece, they built a new highway, the Via Egnatia, or the Via Egnatia. We call it the Egnatia Odos.
Okay. There you go,
Right.
which takes you all the way to Constantinople.
And from then, it used to go from Dirachio,
Mm-hmm.
Duresh, in what is now Albania, down to Ioannina, and then across basically the way it goes now. Thessaloniki
So the Romans would march along this particular
and
path
trade.
and trade, and now it's a road.
The part of it in Greece basically follows the same route the Romans built, pretty much, except for through the mountains. They're a little bit different through the Pindus Mountains. The modern ones are a bit different. It was a major trading centre. It became very wealthy.
Mm.
What most people don't know is that the Metropoli, the Archdiocese of Ioannina, is the second wealthiest archdiocese in Greece.
Really?
Only the Archdiocese of Athens is wealthier. Basically, the whole of Ioannina city, the old part of the city, not just the Castro, but all that district around the lake, it all belongs to them.
Really?
Everybody rents from them. And this goes back to Ali Pasha's time in the Ottoman period.
Mm.
They simply grabbed all the the land. They came from Trikala,
Mm-hmm.
so they followed the flat lands.
The Ottomans,
The Ottoman army crossed the Pindos. Freak snowstorm hits, and they simply walked across and knocked on the gates of the fortress and said, "Hello, open up, we're here." And the defenders are like, "Where did you guys come from?" Because the road to Athens. It's the other side of the fortress, not where they were knocking.
Mm.
And they go, "We just crossed the valley." And the defenders are like, "What valley? You just walked over the lake. You guys walk on water." It had frozen. And that happens very rarely. The last time the lake, there were chunks of it actually last winter. But the last time it actually froze completely is about 70 years ago.
Which is ironic because the liberation of Ioannina is, what's the date?
21st of February 1913.
There you go.
Last year was the centenary. No, 110 years. And so the Muslim general, Ottoman general who captured the city, then opened up basically a Muslim monastery, a dervish place, Durahami, at the spot where he began crossing the lake when they worked out that's still a school. It's an orphanage.
there
Effectively.
today.
It's still there, still functioning today.
Yeah.
Wow.
You can see it diagonally across from the
Yeah.
fortress.
Amazing.
There you
But
go.
this is why land of myths and legends and all these stories and all these come together.
Amazing.
There you go. So talk to me about my people, the Souliotes.
Your people.
Mate,
Hard people.
we have.
So the ones who didn't want to live under the rule and under the taxes, basically, because let's be blunt, who likes paying taxes? Went up even further into the highlands. Now, if you've been to Souli,
Just on taxes, it was a Christian tax, wasn't it?
there were
was it a
separate
religion?
taxes. There were taxes everybody paid for business, and then there was the additional tax, apart from the Mazma, which is another tax. There was an additional tax that only
A lot of taxes. Sounds like Australia.
We're nothing compared to that.
We don't have pedomajoma though, or babula, as we say.
Babula.
Ooh, the Babula tax.
Babula tax. The pesto that only non-Muslims would pay, Christians and Jews.
Ah, right. Okay.
For the privilege, basically, of being allowed to remain Christian or Jewish, you'd pay a tax annually.
And that's why some of them did convert, so they didn't have to pay the tax.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's how you ended up with Greek speakers Muslims and Greek speakers Christians. And when the War of Independence started, they fought together because they were related. They're not going to fight each other. They're not going to fight their own blood.
Yeah.
Unless it was a rival clan who we didn't like, but let's not go there.
Yeah. Okay,
so 1300s, early 1400s, they
Yeah.
go up into Suli, which
Yeah.
is really hard. I don't know how they lived up there.
It is, and where my parents are from, it's all cliff face. One little squiggly little road that
Yep.
goes in. And then when I was there, I was in the village, and I said to my uncle, I said, "Is this here?" He goes, "Yep, this is the famous Labanitsa, it's called." So it's like I think they called it Parasuli, like a suburb of Suli. It wasn't the main town of Suli. And there was a lot of dotted...
Suli is a number of villages, basically.
Suli is a region, isn't it?
It's a district, yeah.
Yeah, it's a district. But there was a main town called Suli, wasn't there? Yeah. So this was it. This was the town. In this town, there was 2,000 people lived. And it was just amazing how they all were subsistence farmers. They'd all help each other out. If someone got married in the village, all the men would get together, build a house. And like you said, the houses are still standing today.
Yeah.
And they're like
Absolutely.
200-300 years old. It's crazy.
And our American listeners will remember that this is the way the West was built. The whole community would get together and do a barn raising.
Yeah, right.
Or a church raising, whatever needed to be built.
Yeah.
They'd all get together, they'd do 2-3 days, and they'd build it.
Yeah.
But everybody pitched in. And this is the only way that these people could survive up there.
Was there a lot of skirmishes with the Souliotes around that time?
Especially with the Albanians who controlled the farmland down below.
So the Albanians came in as well,
Of course.
controlled all the good farmland.
Of course, because the Albanians were played the role like the Kurds did in the Middle East for the Ottoman Empire. They were the local policemen. You've got to remember, the Ottoman Empire, we'll talk about the Ottoman Turkish Empire. The Ottoman Empire was, while the elite were Turkified, most of the people on the ground actually being governors, especially in Europe, were either converts to Islam or Albanians. And the Albanians themselves were converts to Islam. Originally, most of the southern Albanians were Orthodox, and some of the northern Albanians up towards Montenegro and Serbia, that corner of Albania, were and still are, about 10% of Albanians are Catholic, Roman Catholic. The most famous one, Mother Teresa. But she was born in Skopje, still part of that crowd. So they operated like the police force. So these guys, so the Souliotes over time, as the empire weakened, particularly after, and we talked about the croissant last time.
We did.
Yeah.
Particularly after the 1600s when it started to decline, the Souliotes and other such mountain groups started doing their own taxes on businessmen coming past. If they knew you, there was no tax. But if they didn't like you, there was a tax. Οι αρματολοί και οι κλέφτες.
Okay.
So now we're talking about the 1700s, 1800s.
Yeah.
1700s especially. All right, and this is where they learnt to fight.
Very interesting.
Because of these taxes, basically highway robbery.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
The Ned, in an Australian context, the Ned Kelly, or the American context, the Jesse James of the area. They became very, very good fighters. They learnt how to use the terrain to fight. So when the War of Independence started, and it's amazing how much the world knew about what was happening in Greece generally, but especially in Epirus at the time, because shortly before, Ali Pasha was an Albanian. We call him a Turco, but he wasn't. He was Albanian, from a town called Tepeleni, hence nicknamed Tepelenis. The local ruler, he wanted to set up his own little empire. He made his son the governor of Trikala. He made another son the governor of Moria or Peloponneso. He himself had there. He had relations with the British and the French and everybody. Because remember, Parga at the time was not Turkish. Parga at the time was French.
Venetian? Oh, French.
French, and then British. When after Napoleon, the British took it over.
Oh, right. So Turks never went to Parga?
No.
Wow.
It's one of the few little
And Preveza?
spots. Preveza they did. Preveza they did rule for a while. But the islands off the coast, like Kalamos, which is Paxi, Kerkira, never.
Yeah, because Parga, Preveza, they got amazing castles there, Venetian castles.
Yeah,
That's
originally
why I thought
Venetian, then the French took over after the Venetians,
yes.
and then the British after the French.
Ah, there you go.
So
That's why we have such big fortresses there, mate.
yeah, and Parga was one of the main entrances because it was British for British visitors doing the grand tour of Europe and visiting Greece.
Okay.
Now the most famous one was there. Now let's just say it. He was there for the boys, literally. You know who I'm talking about.
Yes.
Lord Byron
Yep.
wrote a fabulous little couple of books, a couple of chapters in some books about his time in Yanina at the court of Ali Pasha, and including a poem dedicated entirely to Ali Pasha, very praiseworthy. No, I'm not going to get into it. Anyway, he did spend time
With Ali Pasha.
with Ali Pasha in
Just
Yanina.
look it up. Look it up,
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah, you got to look up the poem. You got to
Yeah.
look up his writings about Yanina. And there's a number of these travelogues of people
Yeah.
going through Yanina and talking about just how wealthy the place was.
Because he did, and I read he never built a Muslim mosque. He built
No.
Orthodox churches.
He only sponsored Orthodox churches because long term, the man was a smart cookie.
Yep.
Long term, he goes, look, most of my subjects are Christians. If I'm going to break away from the Sultan and set up my own country, my own state,
I want support of his
I'm
constituents.
going to need these guys' support.
Yeah.
Was that ultimately his goal?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, the
Absolutely.
Turks ended up killing him.
Yeah.
Then we get the War of Independence starting, 1821, and don't let the Peloponnesians say that they started it because they didn't. The Pondians did.
Did they?
The first battles in the War of Independence were up in Romania,
Yeah, wow.
on the border between the Ottoman Empire and the Russian Empire.
Really? And they were Pondians.
Most of the fighters were Pondians. The Ypsilantis family that were leading them were Pondians.
Wow.
There you go.
That's the first battle. This is February of 1821.
Okay.
In Peloponneso, it started in March. That's true. And because of nation-building reasons inside Greece, it's 25th of March is the Independence Day.
Okay.
Even though the actual fighting started 5 weeks earlier.
Okay.
But that's astoft. Ali Pasha took advantage
Yeah.
of the fighting on the
In
Pruth River
Peloponnese.
in Peloponneso to declare his own independence. He had a revolt. He lost it. A few years earlier, he had met a wandering monk, Christian Orthodox monk, who was really weird for his time.
Cosma?
Cosmas Oetolos. Patro Cosmas. Father Cosmas. Why was he so weird? What would you expect a holy man, a monk, to advise the faithful? To build what?
A church.
He goes, stuff that, go build schools. He's renowned all up and down Western Greece, from Patra right up into what is now Albania, into Vori Epiro, for founding schools and advising people build schools. This is 1700s, late 1700s. Patro Cosma, you have the gift of prophecy, I hear. Which he did. Am I ever going to go to Constantinople, to the imperial capital? Remember, it didn't become Istanbul until 1936.
Oh, really? So it's still
It was
Constantinople.
officially at Constantinople until 1936. Go through all the old newspapers of
Really?
the World War One of the 20s. It did not change until 1936. Πατροκοσμάς του λέει, θα πας με κόκκινα γένια. You're going to go to the imperial capital with a red beard. But this time, Ali Pasha was an old man. He
Yeah.
was white as snow.
Yeah.
Ρε το τρελό. This crazy old coot. Yeah, no worries. What happened to him? He loses the revolt. He is shot to death on the steps of his holiday house on Greece's best island, το νησάκι του στα Γιάννα,
Yeah.
the little island in the lake,
Yeah.
which is so good. What's the name of the island? The island.
The
το νησί.
island. It's that good.
It's that good. It's το νησί.
The
island.
Well, actually, if you do go to his house, you can actually
You
see
still
the,
can. You can still see the bullet
the
holes.
bullet holes from the floor.
Mm-hmm.
So he shot from underneath the floorboards.
Yeah.
Wow.
They would keep their animals under their houses. There's a couple of reasons. One was security, obviously, but also natural heating.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
Think about the warmth
Yes,
of the manure, of the gases of the animals. It would naturally heat the house from underneath. And Greece, Yanina and Epiro generally needs heating
Any
like
heat.
6-7 months of the year.
Yeah.
You need extra heating, even today. So anyway, they cut his head off as proof that he was dead. Doused it in honey. Why honey?
To preserve
Never
it.
rots.
Yeah.
Honey never rots. Sent his head to Constantinople.
Thus the red beard.
Hence the red. So he did go to Constantinople with a red beard.
Cosma knew.
Wow.
His body is buried in the castle next to his wife. Well, next to his favourite wife.
She was Greek.
No, his favourite wife was an Albanian.
His last wife was Greek.
One of his other wives, because he was polygamist.
Well, he had
It's good to be king.
His main wife, or his last one, was Greek.
His last one, Vasiliki.
Yeah, that's it.
his harem was notorious, right?
Yeah.
Depends which way your moral compass goes.
Sure.
If you're into that thing, he was awesome.
Yeah.
But if you're not,
Yeah.
if you're a humble man like the sensible men are, one life, one wife, his grave is
He
still...
wants to say more, but
I
he's
know.
like,
Just
No,
have another
I'm
sip.
resisting.
Cipro's looking at you. Have a sip.
You're up in the castle,
Yeah.
right next to the Zamida, the one that's characteristic, right at the highest point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
In front there's an iron cage.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's his grave.
okay.
The iron cage is his grave.
In
His
the island?
No.
No.
On Socastro.
Oh.
In the castle, inside the fortress of Vienna.
Really?
In the inner citadel.
Oh, right. Okay. I'll
So
pay attention next time I'm there.
Picture it.
Yeah.
Or next time you go to online or whatever, you see the characteristic Zamida, the minaret
Yes.
on the point.
Yeah.
In front of that, literally between there and the kitchens, what used to be the kitchens, now it's a very nice coffee shop, is an ironwork cage.
Mm-hmm.
That's the grave.
Yeah.
That's his grave. So his body's there, but his head is
Yeah.
lost. God knows where it is.
Yeah.
If it even
Wow.
exists.
Well, they had to prove that they killed him. So,
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
The Sultan needed proof that he was dead.
yeah.
So the Souliotes were very practical fighters. So they go, hang on. Apart from our muskets, when we're going close up, you're not going to use a musket. You're going to use a sword. So the easiest way to kill someone is to cut their heads off. Now, how do I stop someone grabbing my hair and cutting my head off? So we cut our hair short in front. But because we're Greek men, we need to have long flowing hair like Achilles. And like all of them until Alexander. Alexander made it fashionable to have short hair and clean shaven because he couldn't grow a beard.
Is that why?
That's according to legend anyway. But fact is, he's the one who started the trend of shaving.
Okay.
He ordered all his
Front
men to
and
be clean
sides.
shaven. So the Souliotes would have shaved head in front. And if you look at the paintings of them,
Yep.
Yep.
you can see it, shaved basically in front. Basically, it's what we in Australia call a mullet, which I personally think is a crime against fashion and humanity.
I love it.
But-
so short front and back.
What do the Americans
front and side.
We looked this up. What do the Americans
that's right.
call it?
That's
the
right.
Kentucky waterfall.
The Kentucky waterfall. So the American listeners, it's a Kentucky waterfall.
If you're not sure what a mullet is, American friends, it's a Kentucky waterfall or a beaver paddle.
A beaver. Yeah, that was the other one.
The other one.
Europeans, you just have to Google it.
Hang on. So you're saying Epirus invented the mullet?
I am saying that the Souliotes cut their hair for a very practical reason for in battle, that they used that hairstyle. Did then somebody copy it? I cannot put my hand on the
Okay.
Bible and
So
say, yes, it happened. I don't know.
All right. Can I go as far as saying if I see someone with a mullet, say, mate, you got an Epirus haircut?
Please don't.
Or
I'm trying to distance Epirus from this crime against humanity.
Mate, you've got a
Not after this
Souliote haircut.
podcast.
Mate, I'm going to say it to everyone. Hey, mate, that is a Souliote haircut,
so
mate.
for the record, then.
The Souliotes would be proud.
Yeah.
So for the record, then, did Greeks invent the mullet?
Apparently. If we go on the paintings of and this is 200 years ago, so it's not like yesterday. All right, some of these earliest paintings we have of them are from Ali Pasha's time, so the beginning of the 1800s. So just after the American War of Independence. So it's a long time ago.
Look,
Kentucky wasn't even part of the US back then.
I think we've got to claim it, Nick.
Yeah,
let's
I think
claim it.
so.
Let's claim it. We've claimed everything else. We may as well claim the
The
mullet.
three
as
of us
well.
are never going to wear a mullet, so...
No.
Yeah. No. Or maybe we might have to, me and you.
Did you do that in your youth?
A mullet.
Have a mullet?
I think I tried it
Did
for
ya?
a little bit. Yeah, I tried to grow the long back hair. It took ages, and I hated it.
I had.
I've
Can I
always
just
had
say-
short
I
hair.
let mine all grow out.
Oh, did you?
I had hair.
I couldn't grow long
I had
hair.
hair halfway down my back.
Because my hair goes curly,
So does
so
mine.
it doesn't go long. It just goes boop, curly.
Yep, Shirley Temple locks, bookless like that.
Yeah,
But when it was wet and brushed, it was literally halfway down my back.
Wow.
really. So I had to use gel. I had literally a handful
Yep.
of gel
Yep,
to get it straight.
you'd go through a pot of gel a week.
Yeah, but that's why I thought, oh, fuck that, I'm going short.
I've got to say, though, the mullet's come back in the last few years. I mean, I use the NRL as a bit of a barometer for where haircuts are at.
For boys, yeah.
The shittest haircuts I
They
have
are
ever seen
They
in
are
my life.
horrific. I
The
agree,
last-
they are horrific.
The last 3 years in the NRL. The mullet's back. They've got, there's fucking, even in the AFL, it is absolutely horrendous.
Well, in league, maybe there's a bit of,
No.
they're going to war, Souliotes,
No.
I don't know.
No,
Shit,
No, it does look shit.
Non-Australian audiences, please don't look these haircuts up unless you want to look at what you should not do
Yeah.
in terms of hairstyles.
What's Melbourne's fullback called again? Pappenhausen, isn't it?
Pappenhausen, mate. He's got
Ryan
the best.
That's
Pappenhausen
hideous.
has the shittest haircut I've ever seen.
That head
Sorry,
of his
Ryan.
is hideous.
I
We
love
love
it
you.
now.
Great
Now that I know
pile,
that Souliotes had it, I love it. It's
Yeah.
a great haircut.
Great haircut. Yep.
Mate, well done.
All right.
Oh,
well,
that's the best.
My favourite part about Epirus is obviously the cuisine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And you opened up
Yes,
with this
thank you.
with this spanakopita,
yep.
mum's spanakopita. Now, why did they become so good, such good bakers? And why pites?
Well, I'm going to have a crack at it. Because, so obviously out in fields and in all that sort of stuff, they've got to have something easy to carry and something that's going to last. And both of those
gotta
things
last.
happen. Yeah. Well, let me
There's
tell
no
you.
refrigeration.
Let me tell you something, right? So the best spanakopita, I've got to give it a shout out now, right? The best spanakopita, pita full stop, that I've ever had in my life is from a really good friend of ours who's from Epiro. Athina, Zanga is her last name. You probably know people with that last name.
Actually, my grandmother's maiden name was Zangus.
There you
Very
go.
good. So,
Distant cousin.
potentially.
Is she fair?
She is fair, actually.
Yeah,
Distant cousin.
Yeah, she's
Well,
very
so is
fair.
my grandma. Fair, blonde, blue-eyed.
Lives in Athens right now. She makes
Τις
the
Αθηνάς
great-
ο φούρνος.
She makes the best pita I have ever had in my life. And one trip, so my sister-in-law was coming out from Greece. Usually because Athena lives in Athens, my sister-in-law would go and stay with her for the evening and then fly out the next morning. She decided to make a pita for her to bring to Australia. Put it in a Tupperware container. I don't know how the hell she got it through customs or whether that's an issue or not.
Because
It's cooked, apparently, so it's fine.
That's why. I was about to say that.
And I absolutely
Two
hammered it.
2 days later, and it didn't reach a third day.
Mate, I hammered it. It was amazing.
Yeah, they never last long at my house. I told you my adventure. Went over to see my mum and all that, and she made the spanakopita.
Yeah.
A couple of days later, she's got this massive mango tree in the backyard, and they're ripening all the mangoes. I might give you guys some. I've got some here.
Oh, you got some.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
Beauty.
There's dinner tonight.
Yeah, there is.
Incidentally, though, Greeks hate mangoes. En
Really?
masse.
I don't.
We love them here, but in Greece they don't get it.
Okay,
Sorry,
I've
continue.
overdosed
They're
on
weird.
them. So I went over, and this tree's fucking huge. So I had to climb up this tree, and I'm sitting there with a rake pulling him down. With no joke, we got, you know what a milk crate is?
Yeah.
We got 4 milk crates of mango.
This is
out
a
of it.
mature tree.
Yeah, it's huge.
Is there an
It's
avocado tree somewhere close by?
huge. Next door? The neighbour's got one.
That's why.
Yeah.
Apparently, you need to have if you've got a
didn't
mango
know
tree.
this.
No. Next door here at my house.
Oh no.
But I know what you
Okay.
mean. I heard you. Yeah.
Apparently,
I
you
heard
need,
this.
if you want them to fruit properly, you've got to have one of each
Yep.
within relatively close proximity.
Yeah.
I'm not a
Well, they're
green
both
thumb. I don't know.
they're both tropical fruits, so
Yeah.
makes sense.
Or my reward for, no joke, I was in this tree, fucking twigs were going in my ears, in my fucking eyeballs, fighting.
You can picture it,
Yeah,
can't
I know.
you?
Yeah, I'm up there trying to rip this shit
got the
off
shits.
and reaching out. Anyway, I come down, I go, Ma, that's it, I'm done. There's a few more up there. I go, I'll come back tomorrow. And she goes, oh, okay, na fame. She made me a maraconopita.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking beautiful.
Mate, this
with
is a
feta.
concept. Athena was the one that introduced me to this concept as well. She made one when she visited us in Kerkira. Where has that been all my life? Seriously.
Macaronopita.
Yeah, I'd never had it before.
You must be joking.
I'd never had
Oh,
it
really?
before. Yeah.
Oh, my God. All right, we've got
I
to get
hadn't-
you some.
She showed it to me. I'm like, that's a thing? Seriously?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd never had it before.
My God. And again,
Wow.
crispy. She makes the filler fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Literally, I've had half the tray, one sitting. So me and my brother, we always fight over it. So they don't last long. So that was my treat.
Oh, mate,
Throughout
I've got to have it.
Thessaloniki, throughout Athens and Diaspora,
Yeah.
Epirotes are famous for as being bakers.
We fucked this up because your mum should have made one for this episode.
Yeah, we should.
We stuffed
Ah,
this.
next time, Dax.
Why didn't we think of
Mate,
that?
next time, come over. I'm sure she'll have some jobs for us.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And the Epiroti says,
We'll probably get a kreatopita or something.
the Epiroti says, famous for turning anything into pita.
Yeah.
Almost anything can be turned into pita. Kreatopita, the classic.
Kolokitopita.
Oh, the best.
You like that one?
You know what's my favorite?
Go on.
Prasopita.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Leek pita.
Yes. Yep.
It's just got that perfect balance of sweet and sour.
Yeah.
And it's...
When I was a kid, I used to hate kolokotopita
Why?
because of the word kolo. I used to think ass.
It's bums.
When I was a kid,
Well,
I go,
when you think about
Mum,
the-
I'm not having fucking bum pie. What's that?
When you think about the pumpkin, it looks like a bun, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
Well, that's what I thought when I was a kid.
Well, now you just offended every American on Thanksgiving with their pumpkin pies.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it now, but when I was a kid, I had that image of an ass. I go, Mum, tito, mine bum pie. It's like bum yes when you're kids. And fuck yes.
You've said this before.
Yeah.
Bums. I don't want to eat
I'm
bums.
not having bums. Ma, dinner after. Yuck.
But come on, though. If I guess, like growing up, I loved them.
Yeah.
Especially if they were made well.
How do you do them? How do you eat them?
There's two ways that we
Because
do
my
it.
wife says I always use my lotions and potions in it.
Well, there's two sort of basic ways, differences basically. There's one that's actually got like tomato and tomato paste in it.
Yep.
It's still got the garlic and the
course.
onion and all that sort of thing. The other one just doesn't have the tomato in it.
You put
Those are the two
celery
ways
and
we
carrot?
do. No.
So we
None
do.
of
But how do you eat it? Beyond what your wife or mum or whoever makes it for you.
Mum
how
does
do
it-
What do you put on top afterwards?
I'll put on top vinegar.
Balsamic, of course.
Yes.
Excellent.
Okay, we go onion, garlic, celery, carrot. You put a
Okay.
little bit of tomato paste. Mum chucks in a bay leaf now and then.
Yep.
It's got to be there.
Which you don't bite into because it gives you a trip.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
chuck
no,
that.
as you're cooking it, you put it in. You can take it out afterwards when you start eating it.
As a kid, you'd always cop it in your plate. It's like, what the
Yep. yeah.
What are you cooking this underneath a tree, Mum?
Why is there a leaf in here? So go on.
Classic. No,
Digress.
that's it. And then we'd I'd use lemon, fresh lemon. I prefer
Okay.
lemon. Yeah.
I've got to drown it in olive oil. I put more olive oil.
Okay, sorry.
And
I figured-
balsamic vinegar.
That goes without saying.
And chunks of feta.
Yeah, beautiful.
Really?
I love it.
I've put in chunks of feta. It becomes almost like a broth.
Yeah,
Volvoni?
Only dodoni.
that's it.
Well, right in front of you is goat's Volvoni.
Yes, I've had a slice. It's gorgeous. Especially since the few goat herders left in my horio, I actually give their milk to dodoni.
Really?
It's only dodoni from our village is about 10 kilometres.
Yeah, I've been
not
past
far.
the factory a few times actually.
Really?
It's in that district.
But when you have your fakesh, how big a loaf of bread do you need to have to accompany it?
Half
'Cause
a caravelli.
Yeah,
Yeah, you got to go. Yeah.
100%.
Come on, look at me.
You're
You got to have
very
half.
healthy man.
You got to have a half a loaf of
Yeah.
pesto sourdough.
Frazzola, as we say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like a
Or a big Vienna. Rip it
half
up.
a Vienna.
Yeah.
The old Viennas.
It's got to be that heavy village bread. You know what I mean?
So you put it in there and you got to
Papara.
leave it. You got to leave it in there so
Yeah,
so
Na
it soaks
pixie.
in. Na
Yeah.
pixie.
Mate, I'm getting hungry now.
Love it.
Bloody hell.
But this
Well,
is
I guess
why
tonight-
the traditional Epirotico diet is
Yeah.
very vegetarian. They wouldn't slaughter animals very much
Yeah.
because they needed the animals for the trija, for goat hair, or for the
Eggs
wool. They needed the chickens for the eggs. They needed the few cattle that they would have, or the sheep or the goats for the milk. So they wouldn't slaughter them very often.
So long, yeah.
So what else would they
So it's very
typically have?
practical.
Is it? I mean, we obviously
On
eat
the
a lot
coast,
of
they would
revicia
eat fish or the lake fish
right.
before they stuffed up the lake. They polluted it.
What about Yemista? I'm sure they would have had that there.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's all over Greece, I think.
That's a-
Actually,
that's
most
a-
of the dishes
that-
are all
that-
over
that-
Greece,
that's-
but what's tradition Epirotico food, apart from some of those pites?
Oh, they're famous, but especially if, in the mornings, you have your pesto more pali.
Oh, the
Bulgatsa.
cheese.
The bugatsas.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Oh, bulgatsa.
Bugatsa.
Yeah, is that ours?
Oh, bugatsa. Yaniotis are famous for Yanioti
yes.
bugatsa. You go to Thessaloniki, there are shops.
Or Yaniotis,
that advertise Yaniotiki bugatsa. Yeah, for
'Cause
sure.
people in Thessaloniki claim that. So it's ours.
Everybody claims it.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay.
It doesn't really matter. But I'll tell you what, Michael, you can claim apart from the.
Actually, truffle's big in Epirotico.
Oh,
isn't it?
yes.
Mushrooms, yes, for sure.
Mushroom, truffle.
For sure.
And was it frog's legs?
Only in Yanina, only at the
They
lake.
do that. Yeah.
Okay. And snails?
And
No.
heli. I've never
as
had
well,
it.
yeah.
I've never
What's
eaten
heli?
I have.
Turtles?
Eel.
Oh, eel.
Lake eel.
Oh, okay.
You can go to the Nisaki, you go to the island, and they're in tanks, and you can pick one out,
Yeah.
and they cook it up for you straight away.
Yeah. Is that near the Tsipro bar?
Next door.
How many Tsipro bars are there in Yanina?
Not enough.
Mate.
If anybody is thinking about, especially from the States or Europe, going to Yanina,
Yeah.
you must go in the beginning of January, soon after New Year's. Because like in Castoria, they have Ragutsaria. It's basically Tsipro making festival.
Yeah. And Tsipro's a winter drink, by the way.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
you
you don't
can't
have
do
it
it
in summer. It's too hot.
Thank God today is reasonably cool.
Yeah. Well, January is technically winter in Greece, so
Yeah. It's winter somewhere.
yeah.
But all the shops will have barbecues at the front and just shout at passers-by, "Parane souvlaki, parane meze," whatever it is. And here's a shot.
How good's that?
Just on the
I
word
know,
barbecue.
right?
Just so I'm going again.
Bar-
I'm digressing. I'm doing a
barbecue.
you now. Barbecue. It's actually a French word. And
That explains the spelling. I didn't know that.
yeah, apparently it's a French word, and it means when you soufflissi something like a goat from arse to beard to arse. That's what it means.
Really?
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Beard to
so
arse.
apparently,
There you go.
yeah,
The French are weird.
barbecue. So apparently, the word for arse is cool, and barba is beard.
There you go.
That I knew. The barber. That's why we got barbers, as in barbershop
Yeah.
quartet sort of stuff. Yeah, it's beard, but I didn't know the other bit.
You just reminded me of something, though, that happened in episode 1 of this season, right, with Nick Giannopoulos, right? You remember how we were talking about mastica? And you mentioned, what did you used to call chewing gum as,
Yeah,
a, as a
mastica.
kid?
Yeah.
You know,
Mastica.
most of us called it mastica as a kid, whereas Nick said tunga.
Tunga.
Tunga. Tunga. Oh, I haven't heard that in
Mama,
years.
little tunga.
Yeah.
Until I heard it on Nick's.
But
Yeah.
Nick actually, Nick went through the process of saying, do you know why it's called mastica and where does it come from and
Yeah,
whatever.
from here.
I made a connection, which you'd probably know, Panayiotis. I made a connection in this. So, obviously, mastica, what most Greeks would call chewing gum. I made the connection with the word masticate, which is to chew. That's where it comes from.
That is where it comes from.
And I was thinking about it afterwards.
Yeah.
That's where it comes from, to masticate, masticatory.
Because
Boom.
because
So there you go.
most people back in the
Case
day
closed.
didn't
Fuck,
brush
I'll
their
drink
teeth.
to that.
You must.
Yeah.
Mate.
You like that
Well
one?
done, Tom? Fucking hell.
None of with the
See the
mastica.
shit we come up with when we drink on this episode?
Not most people didn't brush their teeth. So how do you avoid basically peeing people off with bad breath? Mastica. It's
you go.
the fragrant tree sap.
I couldn't believe it when I made that connection. I'm like,
Yeah.
that must
That
be where
makes
it's
sense.
from.
Bravo, mate. Gadik series.
I think
Well
so.
done,
Okay,
mate.
well,
There's
digress.
3 groups of Epirottises we've got to mention.
Aha, here we go. Yep.
Number 1 are the Souliotes. When Ali Pasha finally captured Suli after decades of independence,
Yep.
basically independence, the troops moved in. The last soldiers blew themselves up at Kungi, at the monastery at Kungi, with Yaronda Samuel.
Yep.
That's reenacted every July.
Hang on, say that again.
You know Kungi?
No.
It's not far from the peninsula.
How much have you had to drink?
I don't know. A lot. It's been a long day. So they reenact that every
They
year.
reenact it. They put a mock.
Because in
Monastery
Parga, they do it in Parga as well, I thought. Anyway, let me think about it a bit more, but it does ring a bell. I'm trying to work out where I've seen it.
Gathered all whatever gunpowder they had left.
Yeah.
Big and Mesa, automatically going to Greek. The Ottoman troops
Yep.
roll into the monastery and he blows the whole thing up.
Yeah.
The last of the Souliotes fighters, the ones who didn't escape to Kerkira, which is why so many southern Kerkira have Epirotica surnames like Botsis.
And they're all in Benites as well.
And your family's married to one or two of them.
Correct. Yep.
The women gathered at a place called Zalongo, where rather than surrendering, they threw themselves and the ones who had babies, their babies off the cliff.
Yeah.
Big statue, big monument there up there.
Yeah.
It's not reenacted,
Amazing.
but it is commemorated. And I'm glad that our Epirotical Society here in Sydney did a commemoration for it for the 200 years last,
Yeah. And Yanni was there.
220 years
Yanni
last year.
Kurti was there as well.
Yeah, the
So it is-
Consul General was there as
So it's
well.
actually a song. It's a song.
Yeah.
It's a dance. And all the elders got together. They could see the Ottomans climbing up this mountain. And their fate was, look, we're going to be slaves. We're
Yeah,
gonna
you get
get
the harem
raped.
straight away.
What do we do? And the elders got together and they made a call. Said, listen, we're not going to surrender to these guys. We're just going to fight to the end. And they actually threw their children off first. And then they did this dance. And then everyone on the ground could see what was happening. And that's how the story has lived and survived. And there's an American battalion that did a song on it. And I saw it on
Now
the
you're
internet.
going, I haven't heard that.
Yeah, so it was a beautiful singer. And she sang the song, and I've got to look up it. I'm not doing it justice, but I've got to look into it a bit more. But yeah,
You should.
it's an
So
amazing
the
story.
Souliotes are 1. 2, a few years later, again from, I don't know how far Yohoyo is from Blesion. Tesprotias, it's not far. It's
Yeah.
Paramithia district,
My
so
mum
it's
would
not
know.
far. That's Australia's first Greek female migrant was from there.
Oh, right.
She was born in that
From
Hoyo.
Paramithia.
The Horio Plesio, which is
Yeah.
Paramithia district. So
Yeah.
not Suli, it's underneath.
Yeah.
It's in the foothills around Suli.
Yeah. Well,
She-
Paramithia is famous for Vulgari as well.
Yep, the Bulgari family.
Yeah, so he was a...
Or Vulgaris.
Yeah, he was a, tin, copper... He must make jewelry
He was
and
a
stuff.
smith.
Smith.
Metal smith.
His shop is still there today.
The original one,
The original one, yeah.
The original one, yeah.
So he ended up going to Italy. Bulgari is huge now. One of their grandsons, I think he's called Spiro. He's got a Greek name. And it wasn't long ago, several years ago.
They visited.
They came back in a helicopter. They landed. They donated money to the village. And anyway, sorry, mate.
He would have been... He probably, to get the name Vulgaris, he probably would have had some connection with Bulgaria. So not national, but probably business trade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Katerini Plesa, who became Catherine Kramer, her father had business over in Ceres. He would go from Gianna from the Chorio Paramithia to Ceres, a wandering merchant. Somehow, I don't know how, I haven't been able to figure it out, she ended up at the court of Ali Pasha, where her mother was Ali Pasha's son's mistress.
Right.
So Catherine's mother,
who happened to be named Vasiliki, not to be confused with Kira Vasiliki. They're two separate women.
Okay.
Both called Vasiliki, separate women.
Okay.
Her house was near Agia Marina, the church of Agia Marina. You know, Litharitia, the old fortress in Yona, where the 5th Division is.
Oh, yeah. Yep,
where the military base is. That fortress which looks out over the lake, there's a church underneath it, Agia Marina.
Oh,
that was her neighborhood. Her house was around there.
Okay.
Vasiliki engages her daughter Ekaterini Rousseau. Rousseau is Epirotico for redhead, Ranga.
Right.
She was apparently quite beautiful and a redhead. Would have been about 13 at this time, 12, 13. So just becoming into womanhood. Ali was looking at her a bit too strangely for her mother's taste. So she engages her daughter to a guy called Dr. Ioannis Koletis, Ali Pasha's personal physician, who went on to become one of Greece's first prime ministers in Epiroti. Ali Pasha's revolt happens, as we said, and then somehow she ends up in Messolongi during the sieges of Messolongi. And she's staying with an uncle, Theot, or was it literally an uncle of someone from the Chorio, don't know, called Yorios Kitsos, who was very good mates with Lord Byron.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
And Lord Byron was staying in the same house. That's the house Lord Byron died in. He died of fever. Well, that's the official story anyway. God knows what disease he picked up.
Yeah.
There you go.
You want to know what Byron got up to? You just have to read the memoirs of
mental.
Shelley.
So he ended up dying in Messolongi.
He died in Messolongi officially of fever. It was 1824.
But he fought in the independence for Greece.
He fought a little bit. He got sick basically, couldn't handle, because back then Messolongi was a malarial swamp. Malaria was a serious issue. But his big contribution was he left his entire estate to the freedom struggle.
Oh, right.
Every penny was given to the War of Independence.
Because we've got a few statues of him in Greece.
There's more statues of Byron in Greece than there are in the UK.
Oh, there you go.
They were kind of embarrassed of him. The Poms were kind of embarrassed of him.
Us Greeks, we take anyone.
Anyone that helps us anyway.
Yeah.
But we never forget it. If they help, we never forget it.
Yeah.
She gets out before the exodus or the collapse of Messolongi in 1826.
Yeah,
she gets
Catherine.
out.
Yep.
She goes to a little island called Kalamos, just literally 1 kilometre off the coast of Mytika. So literally, you can almost swim it.
Really?
A strong swimmer can go across.
Sure.
She falls in love with, or he falls in love with her, the British commander. Well, he was actually Irish, but he was British Army commander.
Yeah.
They get married. She's about 17. He then relocates with his unit to Kerikera, where they have their first daughter, Amelia.
Yeah.
And this is where the Americans will be interested. Amelia died on one of her husband's business trips. She ended up marrying, believe it or not, in Newcastle.
All right.
Newcastle up here, Sydney.
Just here.
We've been told about this before, actually.
She died at Niagara Falls.
Was it you that was telling us this the last time?
I'm not sure if it was last time or if it was off camera.
Hang on. So Catherine died in Niagara.
No.
Sorry.
Catherine's daughter Amelia.
Catherine's daughter died in. She
Her
born in
first
Newcastle.
Their firstborn, born in Kerikera.
Yeah.
Dad Irish, mum Epirotisa.
Come to Australia.
Comes to Australia, marries a sea captain. On one of his trips over to the United States, to New York, they go for between journeys, go to Niagara Falls for a holiday. She catches some virus, disease, whatever, and dies. And her grave is still there at Niagara Falls on the American side.
How's that for a connection? Corfu,
Amazing.
Australia, US. Oh, they're all connected.
Absolutely.
What a story.
Catherine Kramer, they leave Kerikera, they go Ireland, England. He gets posted eventually to Newcastle, Port Macquarie, Maitland, all these country towns around northern New South Wales. He dies 1864. He was a veteran. He was a veteran of Waterloo. He was at the Battle of Waterloo.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. So he's got a whole story. She then moves with her sons to what we now call the Rialto Terrace, it used to be called. They widened it. You know the Coca-Cola sign at King's Cross?
Yeah.
Now the underpass?
Yeah, the
That
underbridge.
used to be a neighbourhood.
Oh,
They
right.
destroyed the whole neighbourhood of houses, including
Shit.
where she used to live, to open the road to Rushcutters Bay and places beyond.
Oh, right.
She died 8th of August 1907, about the age of 98. She's buried over here at Waverley Cemetery.
All right.
Wow. Okay.
So if you ever do that walk, that cliff,
The coastal
the
walk.
coastal walk, you'll see in the far corner next to the walk a grave that looks like a Greek temple.
Really?
That's actually James Martin, the former Lord Mayor of Sydney. That's his grave. Her grave is a couple of rows up, and on her grave is a little plaque by the Lord Byron Society. We believe she was the last living person to have met Lord Byron. Well, think about it, 1907. He died 1824.
Amazing.
So she probably was the last living person to have met him.
Wow.
Oh, these
'Cause I do that walk. It's an amazing walk.
It's a beautiful walk.
For people who aren't from Sydney, it's just along
Google
the
it.
coast.
If you're not from Sydney, Google it. It's even the footage is stunning.
I do go through there. So Hargraves is from. There's a couple of famous people buried.
Lawrence
in there.
Hargrave is
Yeah,
in
Lawrence
there.
Hargraves.
The first Orthodox Papa permanently based in Australia is there with his
Really?
wife and his
So
daughter.
there is a bit of a Greek connection in that.
Oh, there's
cemetery.
huge. In the Independence section over the southern side of the cemetery, it's full of early Greek graves. The first president of the Kinotita and his family, the Komino family.
Oh, I've got to go check it out. Because that overlooks the Pacific Ocean. Amazing for that. Look,
Oh,
we are
it's-
digressing again.
We are digressing.
But,
And
so that's Catherine Crummer.
The last group, of course, are the Epiroses of 1940.
World War II, definitely.
World War II.
Yeah, exactly. Carried all the ammunition, the weapons up to the front line.
Supplies, carried the wounded back,
Yeah,
carried water up to the soldiers in the warmer
Yeah.
months
yeah.
towards the end of the campaign, because 28th of October, the Italians, the fascists, Mussolini's people invade. They thought there'd be a cakewalk.
Yeah.
Stunning stories. I was listening to the biography of the Chalkias musicians, the clarinet players,
Mm-hmm.
and Petros Chalkias,
Mm-hmm.
one of the older brothers. He
Yeah.
lost his first wife and first children in an Italian air raid on Yanina.
Oh, really?
What we now call Platia Parigis, so that back part
Yeah.
of downtown area,
Yeah.
that used to be Vtoho Gitonia, a real slum,
Yeah.
working class area, and they bombed it.
I didn't know
And
that.
he lost his wife and his first two children. Married again a few years later.
Apparently, Igoumenitsa got carpet bombed too by the Italians.
It's a port.
Makes
It's a
sense.
port.
Strategically.
Paramithia had an airstrip in World War II.
Yeah.
And here's something I forgot to. I'll mention it now. Roald Dahl was one of the James and the Giant Peach, Charlie
Yes.
Chocolate Factory.
Yeah, yeah, the books.
He was a
yeah.
pilot
know
who
this.
flew out of Paramithia.
Really?
Paramithia had an airstrip in World War II.
Shit.
He was part of the bombing of Athens. He bombed an airstrip. Roald Dahl.
Wow.
When he was in the RAF, the Royal Air Force. So the Epiroses would literally carry everything, and they held the front. The Greek army didn't just hold the front. The Greek army actually advanced and liberated northern Epirus.
Yeah.
And the only reason they had to eventually surrender is because the Nazis came in through Bulgaria and Yugoslavia. All the Greek forces were on the Epirus front.
Yeah.
So the Australians, the second generation Anzacs and the British were posted over on the other side. Couldn't hold it. Nobody could hold it against the Luftwaffe anyway.
Yeah.
They got the Air Force just bombed the crap out of it.
Yeah.
So they did retreat. But when we talk about Epirus, well, we talk about any part of Greece.
But they were very fierce resistance fighters.
There's a friend of mine that's doing a series of paintings now about women figures, not only of 1821, but of
Yeah.
20th, but earlier and later.
Yeah.
So there's another. There's
Amazing.
Another story.
Greek women.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Far out.
We can talk about stuff forever, but
I know. Well, look, we could talk forever.
we could,
Yeah.
but we
But-
shouldn't.
Yeah.
No.
The Klarina actually came into the Greek world via Epiro, and it's again because of the diaspora.
Yeah. Oh, right. I thought it was
Because originally, the traditional instrument of Epiro is the pipiza or the zurna,
Okay, what are they?
primitive clarinets.
Okay.
They're wind instruments, but very high pitched and very simple. Basically like a recorder or a flute.
Yeah.
All right, very simple instruments.
Yeah.
These were then taken with them when
Yeah.
they moved particularly to Austria, Hungary and Italy,
Okay. And they formed
where the
clarinet.
locals played around with it and invented the clarinet. And these people then brought it back. The Epiro is the gateway for the clarinet to be introduced into Greek music. The Chalkias family are obviously the most famous, identified with Epirotiki musiki.
Yeah.
Originally, they weren't musicians. What were they? Chalkos is
Bronze, isn't it?
bronze
Oh,
or copper.
bronze. Oh.
They were tinsmiths. They were metal workers.
Okay.
You couldn't make a living back in the day out of being a musician.
Yeah.
You still can't.
Because of the diaspora, the huge number of Epirotes over in the United States,
Yeah.
they invite someone over to do a concert.
Mm-hmm.
Petroluca Chalkias. We're talking about now 1960s. 1950s, or like
Is he still
1950s.
Right.
Petroluca is still playing music
Wow.
alongside his grandson. Not just his son, his grandson.
Yeah. Well, it is a wind instrument because
It is a wind instrument.
when you go to the mountains of Epiro, you do hear that woo sound when wind goes through the mountain. It does sound like a clarinety
Yeah, it
sound
does.
as well. So
Especially in winter, yes. Yeah, when
very
those really
connection.
strong northern winds come through.
Yeah, and they go through the trees. It does sound that clarinety sound. But yeah,
Definitely.
amazing.
And Petroluca's over in the States. He's doing it, I think, it's on the video that I watched the other day. I think it was New York, somewhere around New York, New Jersey, somewhere in that corner. And he gets notified that this big American, this doyen of American clarinet jazz is going to come and listen to you.
Mm-hmm.
Petruca can't read music.
Yeah.
He cannot read a single note.
Wow, just by sound.
Everything is by sound. All these old people, these old musicians, they didn't read music. Everything was
Yeah.
from the ear.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
listened to everything. They listened to the pitch.
Yeah, well, Tom's like that.
He
Tom's got
does.
super hearing. I don't know how you pick up some of that stuff. Like, we'd be listening to something, and Tom goes, "Aha! Did you hear that?" I go, "What? Hear what?" And he goes, "He played a wrong key." I go, "What the fuck are you talking
Wrong note.
about? Wrong note." Anyway, we'd go back, and then he'd have to put it full blast, and I'd hear. I go, "How the hell did you pick that up?" So, supersonic hearing, this guy.
Look,
So you can't whisper in the corner. You'll hear you.
musicians have a particular ear. Cooks, chefs have a particular palate.
But see, the funny thing is, for me, being from Kerikira is really well known for its music. And
Yeah,
being,
very Italian influence, yeah.
correct. And also, they've got the music university there. I go over there, and my family name is associated with music over there. But they don't think I'm a musician over there because I can't read music. It's a very different approach there.
That's a very Western, very
It's
modern
very
approach.
very Western European approach to it.
I mean, you look at ecclesiastical music, the way it's written. It's completely different annotation system to
Yes.
the way that the West uses.
Yep.
Or that they teach at the university, the way they teach music. That's the whole way they use the sounds are completely different.
Yeah, absolutely.
But now, I want to come back to Khalkia. He does the concert, and this big, I was deliberately not mentioning the name yet, this big American, and he is, when you hear the name, you will freak, unless you already know the story.
I don't, but we'll try and
Okay.
guess.
He meets with Petroluca. Petroluca at this time is 40-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, "I thought I knew how to play a clarinet. You just taught me that I've got a lot to learn." It was Benny Goodman.
Right.
Now, anybody that knows anything about jazz music
Yeah.
or music will know that's a freakish thing for Benny Goodman to have said. Benny Goodman was another big American name that Khalkia paid for, because he went there for a concert tour.
Yeah.
He stayed there 20 years. The Pilotos wouldn't let him go.
Yeah.
They missed home.
Yeah.
And he was, just like in a couple of weekends, we've got Melina Slanido coming
Yes, we
to
do.
Sydney. The Pondians are going nuts.
Yeah, they absolutely love it. Yeah, the
She
last
is
time she
Pontian.
was here, they were the first group. They were at the airport to welcome her.
They go nuts because
Yeah.
it's home. And the really freaky thing is that a lot of the kids that go to the airport to see her are third, fourth generation Australian,
Absolutely.
let alone they're the sixth, seventh generation after Pondos, after the genocide. But they still identify as Pondian. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Another one that Khalkia played with was Satchmo, Louis Armstrong.
Wow.
So
you
we're
go.
talking about top.
Yeah, this is the elite.
This is music royalty. Don't worry
absolutely.
about Swifties and Sachlamares, the sugar Sachlamares today. These are serious musicians.
Yeah.
I mean, they say that Manolis Chiotis was called out by Jimi Hendrix There's conflicting reports about whether that actually happened or not, but we're taking it. It really says a lot about the abilities of these people,
Yeah.
the Greeks in general when it comes to music. But those two names that you've just mentioned there, like,
Huge.
you can't.
And these
you
are
can't beat that.
verifiable.
Yeah.
There are photos, there are eyewitness accounts of these people actually met and jammed, as they say, together.
Yeah.
For me, if I have one whinge about the modern Greek state, they do not teach anywhere near enough about the diaspora. We're always, us here outside, we're always talking about, tonight,
Yeah.
we're talking about Epirus.
Sure.
It's a great point.
Yeah.
But they don't talk about the Epirotes outside or the Gergeria, whatever it is, particularly here in Australia. Because it's like, what in the world? It's like the other side of the planet.
It's a great point.
New York tρώγεται, but
You as an educator now, as a history teacher, let's say, do you foresee a time in the future where you will conceivably go to a classroom in Greece and there's a textbook that talks about here's what the diaspora and our
Yes.
connection to us is?
yes, because it started.
It has to happen, doesn't it?
It started a little bit with War of Independence, the role of the diaspora.
Because there were Americans that fought in the War of Independence as well.
There were former slaves that fought in the War of Independence. There are paintings of the classic one. I can never remember the guy's name, and I really should. He's buried in, I think he's buried in Nafplio. African American, full, mavro, pisa, in a fustanella.
Yeah, wow.
Really.
There's a painting of him. I think the Greek Americans honoured him, did a ceremony at his grave in Nafplio a few years ago. These connections are beginning to come out, and now that the Greek state has finally accepted that we who pay taxes in Greece should be allowed to participate in the vote,
Yep.
I think this is going to open up diaspora history, the diaspora experience more to the people in Greece, and it's basically because of now we've got the internet, that immediacy of connection, podcasts like this, which are heard in Greece. Now, like, we've got people like that in Australia. I thought Australia was mau barbecue and maybe some prawns.
Yeah. Was it James Jacob Williams?
No, thank you.
There you go. Good
Do a
job.
Google image. You should find the portrait, the painting of him with the fustanella. It's stunning.
Yeah.
A former slave
Fighting in the War of
who
Independence.
fought in the war for somebody else's independence.
Yeah.
When you talk about the War of Independence, it'll come up, but I'll throw it out there now. Haiti was the first country to recognise Greek independence.
Haiti.
Haiti.
Jeez.
There you go. Yeah, there's a photo.
found
of
him, huh?
Yep.
You found it?
It's everywhere.
You're becoming our shit Jamie.
Wise fastened.
Love it. Wow.
There you go. No, good shot of him. There you go. Shit,
So,
Jamie.
you
Or
know-
we're gonna call him the Colobador.
Yeah.
Someone to do all this stuff while we're talking. Yeah. Wow. No, that's.
I'd be happy to do
fascinating.
that. No, I'd be happy to sit here and have a sip water and just do the Googling.
Be careful what you wish for, mate.
Yeah, definitely. No, fantastic.
Well, I'm sure that we could continue going for the
We
next
could,
6
but we
years.
should.
Good. And we've probably left out a lot as well.
We have.
We have.
We didn't
but
talk about Thanasios Diakos and a couple
we
others.
didn't talk about the
Yeah.
Botsadis family. We didn't talk about the Zavelos family. We didn't
Yeah.
talk about the Katara. I should have brought up the Katara. I got distracted.
Yeah.
The main pass, the main road before the
Kata-
Egnatia,
yeah.
over between Meteora and Yanina.
You
it's
still fit
still
this
called
Kataras?
Istrofits Kataras. It's called the Katara,
Oh, right.
the cursed place.
Really?
And it was. I've heard different versions of it. I've heard it was a papa. I've heard it was a monajo. I've heard it was a bishop.
Yeah.
But it was some cleric who was going through there in spring or early summer, gets smashed in a snowstorm up there,
Yeah.
and he goes, "It's June or May. It's some warm season. Why is there a snowstorm? This place is cursed."
Yeah.
And the name stuck.
Yeah. There you go.
Well, just on that name though, that's one of the lines my wife always comes out with when there's someone in front of you that's either trying to park or drives like shit. Istrofits Kataras permis.
And because if you haven't been there, you don't understand just how dangerous that road
Yeah.
is.
It gets icy and
Even when it's dry, it's just so narrow and curvy and
yeah.
it's dangerous. So yeah, but I love
Exactly.
them.
No, look, what a place you put on. And look, me and you
Definitely.
were talking, we're texting as well. I think you cursed me for posting photos of the amazing beaches we've got.
Yep, I did.
And you said, Nick, stop telling the world about this place.
Yes.
You know, it's,
I posted that comment. Yes,
yeah.
because I don't want them stuffing it up like they've done to so many parts of Greece.
Yeah. And it is. It's a fucking amazing place. It's like where the mountain meets the ocean, the water, and the
literally.
waters are beautiful. And that's why I want to go back every year now. Or I am going back
You should.
every year. Yeah.
Definitely should.
No, fantastic. Look, what a great chat. What a great discussion. Like I said, I think we've done a little bit of justice of Epirus, but there's so much more that we could have talked about. But,
Definitely. Well, you're not going anywhere. We'll be coming back, obviously, at some point.
That's up to the audience if they want to hear my Sakalamadas.
I'm sure they will. And they're not Sakalamadas, let's be honest.
No,
This is
quality
good
stuff, mate.
Well, Panayiotis, thank you so much for
You're
coming
welcome.
here and giving Nick a little bit of support when it comes to this topic. You've both done a great job. Well done.
Look, I'm going to be when the episode is released, I'm going to be sharing it everywhere like I did last time, but with one hashtag: Epirotes are the best.
Love it.
Why Epirotes are the best?
It's going to be trending.
And what about
Fantastic.
the mullet? My God, that's the best story.
All right, guys. Well, ouzotalk@outlook.com is the email. Follow us on social media @Ouzo Talk and @Ouzo_talk. Panayiotis Diamadis, Nick Athanasiou, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you,
Tune in
everyone.
again. Same bat time, same bat channel.
See everyone.
Ακολουθήστε μας στο Soundees, στο Spotify, στο Apple Podcasts και στο Google Podcasts.